What is going on, Donut Fermi Nation? Leroy and myself are in the house tonight. Wonderful to have everybody. Leroy, welcome to the Donut Fermi Show.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so we're gonna have an interesting night tonight. Got a lot of information, a lot happening. I mean, the left can't keep up. They don't even know what to do. It's like the moment that thing made them upset, there's another thing that they get upset about, and all they are doing is playing with their things. And talk a little bit about that tonight. That's all they really have. Anyway, is their
Ding-a-ling.
Mod ding-a-ling-a-ling. We're going to talk about Damani Felder, good friend of the show, dropping bars. Judge blocks child mutilation protection. We'll go into that judge. Who voted for him? A famous Republican that I've told you is an absolute rhino and should never be trusted. Was one of them. See if you can guess. Pin the tail on the rhino. Put the UK in Ukraine. See if you can get those play on words. United Kingdom has decided to go ahead and say, hey, wait a second. What are we doing over there, America? Go ahead and fight this war. Protect us. You know what? I'm sick of the English. And,
Is it tea time?
Oh, take your tea and crumpets and shove it up your bloomin' blown hole. GOP is the old Democratic Party. What? We'll explain it. Leroy and I are going to do that for you. We're going to take our time and undress it all for you. The DOGE is exposing it all. Speaking of dressing. Hopefully we don't have a troll tonight. If we do, I'll boot him. But last night was quite fun. Had a troll came in. That was a bloodbath. I mean, that wasn't even funny. That was just horrible. See you in 3 minutes. Be right back. Twitter people, let's see if we can get this thing shared across the network. Let's get it. 800 on the other night, 400 last night. Let's see if we can get somewhere in between. Would appreciate it. Nice job, Chevelle. Don't smoke.
Being so confused, you feel like you're more fucked up than the lies on the evening news. Well, just step right in. We can talk about it all as friends. And if you want, we can hug and kiss and make up for the party ends. Agree or disagree, stop arguing me. 'Cause I'm everything you want, damn sure what you need. I won't tell no lies, back up on the facts with truth. And if you can't get down with that, you must be somebody's dad.
That I hear most often, that I always try to help people connect the dots, is what is past is prologue. And although Shakespeare, not my favorite, it's an interesting thing when you look at 1980 and the crack epidemic and what the United States government was involved in with the Contras.
No kidding.
So I don't understand why people are so shocked and they call Roseanne a conspiracy theorist. Because there's evidence in the past of the government getting involved in this, and there's plenty of books on this, and you can read this.
Hey, here's what I think. I love your show, by the way, Matt Spear, and
Thank
watch
you, ma'am.
Just discovered you about a week ago,
ma'am.
Oh my God, this guy's a genius. The facts he can spew.
God, I love you.
You can spew fact, and that's the sign of a genius.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I appreciate you asking me that.
So
And
you just made
I
my
do
life.
remember back when they were bringing the crack cocaine into the black neighborhoods, and that proved that the CIA was doing it
Yes,
because
ma'am.
they were grooming that population, and they've been
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
Starting to get my frame back, dude. God, it feels so good to be back in the gym. Like, feels good. Feels really, really freaking good. But I'll tell you what, once you clock 50, you better get in the gym and stuff before, because I'll tell you what, it hurt a lot. And I'm still not there. I still got another 2 or 3 months to be really where I want to be. But holy shit, that first 30 days was tough, dude. Like, it's getting old. I mean, it's a state of mind, but it's no fun.
We have a lot of people in the office that are, we'll say, older, and you can definitely, like, the people with the white hair and the canes and the whatnot. As I walk around some of them, I realize that some of them are not that much older than I am. So
Yeah.
some of the younger people that I talk with, when they find out that, hey, yeah, I'm going to be 55 this year, and they're like, "What? I thought you were in
Yeah.
your 40s," and so that makes me feel pretty good. That being said, I do need to get into the gym more. But
I cheat. I've got one downstairs. That's why. And if I didn't, I wouldn't drive. You know what I mean? I'd do the running, a
yeah,
couple push-ups and sit-ups, but I just got a full gym. I mean, everything you could possibly want, every machine, it's right there. So it's like, and I do it twice a day. So it's like, it's not fair. I cheat. 224,100.
need to do.
Well, I know, but it's a little. Anyway, 224,124. We have gained 24,124 followers on Facebook since Mark Zuckerberg has announced that he was going to stop throttling. Now, it certainly doesn't help our live numbers because it's Zuckerberg, but it's nice to see. Twitter is doing great. Rumble is doing wonderful. So it's good to have everybody here. Thank you. Wimkin, our loyal followers over on Wimkin, YouTube. Good to have everybody here. Last night, a couple things happened. We had a troll join the show. His name's Trent. He's been on before. He gave a different name. And, this is the guy of, I hate Trump, and I'm just going to go ahead and distract the show. And what's funny is they think that I don't know that's what they're trying to do. And I'm like headlong into it. Like I'm full tilt. Like that's what I want. Like I love it when they call. And they're like, "Oh, I derailed the Don't Unfriend Me show." No, you did exactly what I wanted you to do. You're helping me. You're teaching people liberal kung fu. So occasionally I'll play with those people, and this was bad. I mean, it was bad. It wasn't good. He had called before.
Unfortunately, I will say this: I didn't really get a chance to watch it. I was sidetracked with something else. But I will say this: for the people that do call in and just absolutely bag on Trump, hate Trump, Trump sucks, whatever the case is, we've already said all of those things on the show before.
Right. Yeah,
like it's okay to say, no, that was an idiot move, right? You can say these things. Here's the issue.
Yeah. You certainly can't say that the last 3 weeks.
Well, and here's the issue is that we don't necessarily go by that. Like there's relatively few politicians that I like and trust. But what I think becomes a greater topic for discussion is their policies and the results of said policies. And when that happens, then that just leaves nothing for the trolls. Like, oh yeah, I completely agree with you. Trump is a shitbag, but his policy here has been hugely beneficial, right? And that just leaves him nowhere to go.
Yeah, he was throwing lady fingers, and I was just hitting him with tactical strikes. you know, and the thing is that he couldn't, everything he said just basically, I just turned it around on him, and it wasn't about whataboutism or anything. It was just literally, okay,
Right.
so what is your point, right? What is it that makes you hate Trump? He's a Nazi. Oh, okay. Well, let's dismantle that bullshit.
Right.
So it's just, you know, it is what it is. But there was something that happened last night that I have to show you because we're going to go right into the show. But we've got, you know, we kind of do a warm up for like 15 minutes and do the intro and stuff. But this is what happened last night. We put it into a reel. Dummies are going to get mad at me. Don't get too mad. It's worth it. Stick around, watch this. Libra hasn't seen it yet. And enjoy the segment that we had last night with the ladies. The original song. And it's I think it came out just lovely. And hopefully you feel the same. Here it is. It was released by the Democrats, and this is all they have left. They don't have anything else. As they got together, and now this, first of all, I've done a little history, and the tune, this catchy little tune, is from an old coal miners' hymn that was used during a strike, and they're trying to make symbology of the days of old, that they are somehow a part of the working party. And give me a break. Workers voted for Donald Trump. Unions went with Donald Trump. Everybody went with Donald Trump. And everybody's loving what Donald Trump is doing. 71% of the people say is that he is enacting his agenda. And the liberals are just like melting down. They don't know what to do. But here's the video. Enjoy this. And we have written our own for your ears as well.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Tell me, which side are you on? Which side are you on? We'll fight against DOGE. We'll fight Elon Musk. No, Elon's kept with.
Karen, I hope your husband's okay. I just read the scroll, and I didn't even know he was in a rollover. We'll definitely send healing prayers, and we're with you. I apologize that I didn't see that until now.
In our walls,
We are a bunch of... Whoa!
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
All right, here we are. Here's the reply to the which side are we on. Oh, they scream insurrection while their riots torch the streets, looting every business, calling theft a right to eat. They let felons out for votes while locking grandmas in. They call you a domestic threat for loving God and kin.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
Amy.
They tax you till you're broke, then say you didn't build that. They sell our oil to China while your tank just bleeds too flat.
I got to give them credit. They had absolutely no rehearsal time, and we nailed the cringe.
Great.
Nailed the cringe. The cringe is perfect.
They tell you eat the bugs while they feast on Wagyu steaks, then cry about the climate from their beachfront private estates.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
They put men in girls' sports and say it's fair, don't whine. They tell your kids they're racist if they don't fall in line. They claim a man could get knocked up and say just trust the plan. And if you dare to question it, you're silenced, banned, and damned.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
They bail out their donors while your business burns to ash. They print another trillion, then ask why the shelves are trashed. They locked you in your house while their rules were just pretend. They partied in the Hamptons while your grandma wasn't on the mend.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
Amy.
They say abolish prisons, but they still protect their own. They let murderers walk free, but arrest you for a loan. They kneel for foreign flags while spitting on our vets, then wonder why Americans are saying we're not done yet.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
They flood the streets with junkies. They say it's harm reduced. They pass the needle round, then act shocked when death ensues. They buy beachfront mansions while they warn of rising tides. They say your truck is killing us while flying private skies. Ooh, that was rough.
That's tough.
Which side are they on? Which side are they on?
They ban your gas stove, but theirs will always burn. They kill off your job and say just learn to code in turn. They tell you not to speak. They tell you not to pray. And if you don't comply, they'll find a way to make you pay.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
Amy.
They hide behind the FBI. They spy and call it law. They use the courts like weapons. They lie without a pause. They stole from every worker. They crushed the middle class. And now they say you're selfish just for wanting your life back.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
They make believe there are 67 genders and women are just lipstick. They tell you they care about your rights and your baby is a clump of shit. Making money by the boatload with investments in secret stocks. Endless wars, media lies, corruption, and a woman with a great big.
Oh, which side are they on? Which side are they on?
Ladies and gentlemen, the singing Don't Unfriend Me's with a rendition for the ages. Democrats.
We've been asked where Hayden was.
All right, so a little bit of fun last night. It was a good time. Yeah, it was fun. Folks, if you have not had a chance, the Constitution of the United States, one of the most important documents of your life, and we have the full rendition on thedumbshow.com, 144 pages. It is amazing. Do yourself a favor. Stop on by and grab yourself a copy. What do you think of this? And first of all, a lot of people don't know that song, it was in Harlan County, and Kentucky, and it was the coal miners, but what Justified was based off of. And what a lot of people don't know is that it was actually a socialist communist hymn. And go figure that liberals are just letting their mask slip, telling us who they are. It's ludicrous. Your thoughts on the singing?
You know,
there?
I have heard there's so many. There was a poem post World War II that also got kind of. It was like, what the hell was it? It was something like, "Nobody stood for me." They went after the socialists, but I didn't care because I wasn't a socialist. That poem, and the thing get co-opted right into the leftist playbook, and they will use that to try and get a message out there because people have heard it just like this. It's a song. It's got a little bit of that earworm quality, so it gets out there. It becomes infectious, and then the next thing you know, you've got a movement.
It's like
so
herpes.
So it doesn't shock me that they would try and run with that, but just how ineffective it has gotten in the last year or so has been.
Oh yeah, and Evelyn says, and you know, I'll recite this because it's a part of history. But she said, I thought they tried to make it sound like an old Negro spiritual type song, and of course they did. Of course they did. And like I said, all they needed was 10 cups and bars and singing Swing Low. So this is what the liberals do. And they don't represent anybody. We're going to talk about this tonight. And this is actually a really good segue into one of the last parts of the show. But we'll start off with a good friend, Damani Felder. Folks, we are 100% funded by you, thedumbshow.com/donate. We do receive from our good friends over at Wimkin a little bit for taking care and ensuring that we're broadcasting over there, and they help us, and we love them for sure. And Jason and team are doing a great job. So go over to wimkin.com, sign up. 9 million people strong, social media, and it's like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all put into one, and the work he's done is amazing. Go over there, free speech. But if you Look at the goal down below. It says $300. We have hit goal for 11 months in a row. We're almost on a year. This team is amazing, and people invest in the show. It is 100% free. You don't have to, but we ask that maybe you like, share, and subscribe and show your friends the show. And that helps out more than anything. We've got 125 on right now, plus 70, 50, 60 on Rumble and the other networks. So we're 250 every night, and hopefully we'll get this sucker up into the high 400s like we have been all week. Here is Damani Felder, good friend of the show. He wants to talk about Elon Musk and DOGE, and we will be doing that as well. But I want to just focus on what Damani says here, which is always brown gold. And here it is.
Have access to your sensitive information now. Really? That's kind of funny. So you don't want Elon Musk to have access to your sensitive information now. Really? That's kind of funny considering many of you are the same ones who demanded individuals have their sensitive health information printed out on little vaccine cards so they could actually go to the grocery store a few years ago. Remember, you're all the same ones who were still wearing masks in your cars alone by yourselves and had to follow arrows around a grocery store. So now you want to care about sensitive information and act like you have some logic and common sense. Hold on a minute. The only reason Elon Musk and DOGE are doing this in the first place is because there's been rampant government wasteful spending, fraud, and corruption. And he is committed to ending those things, which honestly means that you would get more money and be able to keep more of your money if the government wasn't wasting so much of it. But you are so committed to your political side, the side of the left, that you are the first ones to stand against your own progress under the auspices of caring about sensitive information. You can go ahead and miss me with that argument again, because just a few weeks ago, when TikTok was due to be banned, y'all were the first ones who were freely giving your sensitive information over to Red Note and Lemonade and other TikTok alternative apps that are owned by China. So miss me with that argument, because I know you're not a serious person, and I'm tired of people actually even giving you the time of day, because you do not understand logic and common sense whatsoever, and you are so committed to your own continued failure, but don't even realize it. That's a problem to me.
Hey, Glenn, change the linktapgo.com. I've asked before. Please don't put that up ever again. If they want to find the show, linktapgo, and if they want to donate, it's thedumbshow.com/donate. It's much easier for people, and the other one's too long. Thanks, buddy. I have asked before, and I would appreciate if we would take that down and stop putting that up. Leroy, your thoughts? Why is the left so damn against doing good things for the individual and always focused on force feeding the collective? Help me understand.
Well, that's kind of the mantra. You know, it's funny. Okay. Right before the show, and this is something that Matt and I do all the time. He will occasionally send me material to read. I will try and absorb it, and then we go on air, and then we talk about it, right? As I was reading this, and this coincides with your question, I was thinking to myself, God, so much of this has been taken from the leftist playbook. And what is the leftist playbook? Well, the ultimate leftist playbook would have been Karl Marx. And so your question, read it to me one more time.
Is why is the left always so adamant against the individual being taken care of versus force feeding the collective?
And that's the answer, right? It's because right out of the leftist playbook, right, that is the priority for which they want to place on society. They want you to give up your individuality, your rights, in lieu of a greater good. It's like too many people watched Star Trek at one time and thought the Vulcans had it all down. No, right? Ultimately what they're after is for everyone to be dressed in potato sacks, working in a field, and that'll hold true for 98% of them, and there'll be that remaining 2% that does have those beachfront properties, and that'll be the bourgeoisie that they just, hey,
Right.
peasant, fetch me another martini. This is ultimately where that plan lands. So the only people that are really invested in that are the people that would benefit from that level of system.
Right. And when we sit here and say that the left does things force feeding the collective, it's never anything that moves you forward. It's only the stuff that keeps you in place. And always looking backwards, always looking at your present situation and always blaming everyone else for that problem. Right. That is what we mean by force feeding the collective. Individualism is based on meritocracy and is antithetical to collectivism. And this is why the Democratic Party and why Damani says this is they are so resistant, not to change. They're so resistant of losing control. And it's not about winning the House or the Senate because they understand that it's all essentially the same thing when it comes to enriching your lives and your pocketbook and your overall stasis. Because if a politician was voted out of power, it should basically mean that the American people repudiated that person. And you should leave in shame unless your goal is to enrich yourself and not work on the benefit of the American people. Happy snow day, Bobby says. Thank you. And that's the, thank you, Bobby, so much. That's the ever-loving point, folks, is they would leave in shame if they were rated on their performance for the American people versus being rated about how quickly they can increase their pocketbook and financial disposition. And that is what success looks like for politicians now. How quickly can I make my fundraising goals and start turning profit for myself with stocks, with books, with political action money, with $25,000 plate dinners? And this is the cancer that's in our government. So when Damani asked this question, why are they so resistant is because they're not fighting for the same sport that we're all asking them to. And the second thing is that they're telling their people who have been programmed to always look at the past and the current and to play the victim, to blame Republicans of why they are in their current position. And they cannot have the Republicans cut this money out of the budget. They can't solve the problem because the problem is what keeps their people anesthetized and mentally weak. And that is the problem and why Democrats are flipping out right now, because it will lose them control, lose them the money, and lose them the votes.
Oh, it's absolutely all about the money. And the way they try to seize upon that is by sowing an atmosphere of a victimhood mentality.
Right.
And the whole point of the Constitution, the whole point of the Bill of Rights is it's an empowerment tool to the individual. Well, that's not something that they want, because if you have ultimate control over your life and you accept that responsibility and take it seriously, you will succeed, right? And they don't necessarily want that, because if you succeed, then there is no reason for them to implement programs that would grow the state. There's no reason for a greater welfare state or for another three-letter agency or another victim advocacy group, unless you are a victim, which is why they need to sell you on that idea. I felt like I cut you off and then...
No, you didn't cut me off at all. You were good. I had to write something. Can somebody take care of Glenn, please, and tell him to stop using that URL? I'd really appreciate it. That needs to stop, like, now. Thank you. So, Amy, if you wouldn't mind, Olivia, somebody, thanks. One of the comments that was made by Glenn, which maybe he was writing that instead of listening me not to use that URL anymore. We need individualism and collectiveness. Collectiveness. I don't know if that's a word. Collectivism is the word I'm using, and no, we don't. We don't need collectivism. No. Collectivism is working on the majority, the mob rule, and it's using a cookie-cutter solution that every single person is supposed to fit into the same box. And essentially that everyone needs health care. When that's not true. I don't need health care right now. I could use my yearly checkup, my prostate exam, and that's about it. I don't need to go ahead and spend a crap ton of money on pharmaceuticals. I don't need to spend on a crap ton of money on any type of health or IRA savings account. I don't need to do that. But what the government says is that everybody needs this same amount of coverage for this same cost. And unfortunately, that's not the way. That's collectivism.
Yeah.
It's essentially trying to paint the world with a hammer. Yeah. And that's not the way it works. Where individualism allows you, based upon your needs, being a screw, being a hammer, or screw being a nail, being a dowel, being a socket, being whatever, a wing nut, to use the proper tool for the job with the right amount of leverage and the right amount of pressure. That is not the same thing as collectiveness, like everyone getting together and singing Kumbaya. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about individualism versus collectivism. One is a progressive ideal and one is a conservative value. They're very different things. Go ahead, Leroy.
When you think collectivism, excuse me, when you think collectivism and then play that forward, a society that embraces that with the very fiber of the documents that have founded that country, collectivism played out is how you end up with three-letter agencies that answer to no one. It is how you end up with $32 trillion in debt. It is how you end up
37. 37.
bankrupting an entire country. And real quick, something I had started doing was keeping a clock of Doge. Now, and I'm not saying how much they've saved. That's already being published. What I've
We're
been
going to go over
doing
this later, by the way. We're going over this
Oh,
later.
are we? I'll shut up then.
No. Talk about it. It's okay. Just don't unzip it and flop it on the table yet.
Oh, I gotcha. I took the amount that they advertised that Doge is basically telling us, right, that, hey, this is how much we've saved the country so far, which is, I think, $67 billion, right? And if you divide that by the tax-paying population, that means that Doge is responsible for saving you, the taxpayer, the people that have to file by April the 15th. Doge is responsible for saving you so far $335.
And it's more than that because we're going to go over that shortly. Because the average taxpayer owes $300,000 at this point towards the national debt. By the way, it's $37 trillion. It's not 32 anymore.
Okay.
It's went up $5 trillion since we started talking about it religiously last year. So in less than a year, it's went up $5 trillion. So it's $37 trillion. So we're $13 trillion away from D-Day. Now, Nancy Jennings just sent me a super chat, and thank you so much, Nancy. It says, your opinion on judges fighting Trump's exposing all he has. This shows how deep the money flows. We did a great show on this. I think it was Tuesday with Leroy and I. Did we do the judges and talk about the Constitution? Yeah. So it was Tuesday, and we broke it down. I'm going to give you the very high level that when it was constitutional crisis, I think it actually may have been Monday. Go. You'll see. It says constitutional. It was Monday. It was Monday night we did it. Constitutional crisis. Go take a look. And that show will walk you through, Nancy, and it's on my Facebook page and YouTube.
You had referenced it on Tuesday, which is why I remembered you talking.
We did. We talked a little bit about it, but going through Article 3 through the Constitution of the United States, here's the thing: is the justice system and the judges have every single right to impede the president's executive orders based upon Article 3, and that can be at the circuit or federal level. It's true. However, the miscarriage of justice here is that these circuits and regions of judges have been politicized. And what Joe Biden did is by replacing 800 judges at the last minute in the last 2 months of his campaign, they packed the courts so they could go ahead and be a stalwart and a bulwark against Donald Trump's policies. That removes the ability of the judges and must move to a higher court. This is where the Supreme Court comes to play. So can Donald Trump say that the courts are politicized and are stacked against him and removing him based upon a miscarriage of justice? And he has that right. Now, here's the thing. A lot of those executive orders, they can block. We're going to talk about one tonight about sexually mutilating children. And a judge approved and blocked Trump. He can do that, but it will go immediately from the circuit court or the district court and then move to the Supreme Court. The problem here is that could take time. So Trump will win most of these on appeal, but what they cannot do is when he cuts funding, this whole thing with DOGE, it's not going to fly because the President of the United States, specifically in Article 3, and it states this, and we could go through our Constitution of the United States. If you don't have one, go pick one up at thedumbshow.com. Is that the overall distribution of funds and the coin purse, as Alexander Hamilton stated, remains with the Congress and the state legislature, the House. Therefore, a judge cannot impede the President of the United States cutting funding and not using that money. It goes back to the House. So the House need to go ahead and have a proposal that goes ahead and stops the process. Thank you, D-Bags from Rumble, donated $15.95. Appreciate you, brother. And stops the process from taking place. And they would have to send that to the Senate for vote to override the executive order of the president, very similar to overriding a veto for the president, which requires a 2/3 majority.
Right.
And this is where the filibuster, why they wanted to destroy the filibuster when they're not in power and keep it when they are in power, because it is another bulwark. So to answer your question, is it legal for the judges to do what they're doing? Yes. And is it legal for Donald Trump to proceed? Yes. But Donald Trump is not proceeding on the constitutionality of these choices, only the financials. He's allowing DOGE to continue to stop funding, but they are stopping blocking.com pages, sexual mutilation of children, some of the rules in regards to ICE and going in and impacting sanctuary cities. All of these proposals that he's put forward, they have a right to block those because that reserve power falls within the states. But it will make it to the Supreme Court, and all they're doing is slowing down the inevitable, and all they're doing is helping the Republicans win in 2028 because America wants this shit. 71% of America believe that Donald Trump is executing his plan and what he ran on, and his popularity rating is the highest that it's been. So we can't sit here and continue to say we're going to go ahead and circumvent his presidency because we're judges, because then you're using it as politicization. We'll talk more about this in an upcoming segment. Anything else on Damani's comments real quick before we move into the B block?
No. I mean, Damani is just such a great mind. And I think he calls out the hypocrisy absolutely perfectly. When he is basically saying that, hey, you can't be too pissed off at Elon for getting your personal information when that is exactly what you were trying to advocate for during the COVID. Hey, you can't come here unless you have your papers, please.
Right.
That's perfect example.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of what that looks like and how they use that they use moral gymnastics in order to justify that position, but they're still just as wrong.
Yeah, and Glenn, I appreciate it. I wasn't trying to come down, man. I've asked before, that Link Tap Go was like a temporary solution until we got approved for our app on Apple. We're still fighting Apple on getting approved. We're on everywhere else but Apple, we are not. So I just keep using the dumbshow.com/donate. So I wasn't trying to be grumpy with you. That's why I wrote in all caps, because I wanted you to see it. Let's move on out of A block and go into B block. And Judge Block's child mutilation protection. This is an interesting one.
The Dumb Store is veteran-owned with a 5-star diamond rating for service and satisfaction. We offer quality products like coffee, shirts, hoodies, and hats, all made by veterans. Shop with confidence, backed by hundreds of 5-star reviews. Use code DUMB10 to save 10%. Visit thedumbshow.com today. Thank you for your support.
Blankets, coffee, shirts, hats, jackets, everything. I mean, listen, folks, there's a lot of things about it. People are like, oh, I like the video, and I like your music, and I like your layout, and all this other stuff, and your content. Our show is spot on. Our store is spot on. It is, I think it's got 250 some odd ratings, 5-star and above. It is a Diamond Award winner for customer service and satisfaction. It is one of the top rated stores, and I pay $110 a month so I can have your feedback and your ratings and put it on the page. Most go to Grunt Style, go to other places. They don't use that. We do, because we want you to feel secure. We ship it fast. It is high quality stuff. I've had this particular shirt for almost 4 years. I must have washed it 50 times. I guarantee Leroy has all his stuff. Our stuff lasts. It's built It's made in the USA. It's high quality. It's veteran owned. Our coffee is fantastic. Stop on by and go get yourself something at thedumbshow.com. Judge blocks child mutilation protection. Dude, this stuff makes me so sick. I can't believe these people. This is Brendan A. Herson. He looks like a pedo. Is an American lawyer from Maryland. Go figure. He's serving as United States District Judge of the United States District Court for the District of Maryland. He previously served as United States Magistrate Judge of the same court from 2022 to 2023. The people who got him in, just so you can just remember who the neocon uniparty rhinos are in the Republican Party, who you should always remember. Lindsey Graham voted yay. And Rick Scott. You wonder why Rick Scott is not on Donald Trump's team? You want to know why Rick Scott? Listen, I told you about Rick Scott. He is an opportunist. So's Graham. They're a part of the neocon, Trey Gowdy, Paul Ryan, Michelle Bachmann, old neocon Bush Republicans, and they are trash. Lindsey Graham is absolute garbage. He's a liar. He never does anything. He promises he's going to go after Clinton. He promised he was going to do the thing. No, he didn't do anything. Guy doesn't do anything. He's a backstabbing weasel. The overall roll call to vote was vote number 251. 53 yeas, 44 nays, not voting 3. It would have been nice if these Republicans actually would have shown up. Here is the District Court of Columbia finding. It's case number 1/25CV286 RCL. And I know it's hard to see, but you'll be able to blow it up on your phone. The plaintiffs are 3 male to female transgender women in the custody of the Bureau of Prisons and housed in female penitentiary facilities. One plaintiff alleges that they each suffer from gender dysphoria, a condition marked by significant distress and host of physiological and psychological symptoms when a person lives in a manner conforming to their biological sex for several years before and including their time in the BOP custody. The plaintiffs have been prescribed and have generally received hormone therapy to treat their gender dysphoria. On January 20th, Donald J. Trump signed an executive order which provides in pertinent part to eliminate this care and the responsibility and funding for the United States government and the people of this country. Here is the breakdown on Fox News, a quick 26 seconds, and then we're going to talk about it and why something like this can be allowed in a country where we are supposed to protect our children and they are supposed to be the future of our country and the most important part of what we leave behind in our legacy. Here it is.
All right, breaking right now, a federal judge has just paused President Trump's executive order restricting gender-affirming care for people under the age of 19. A group of patients' families suing to block the order. It is now on hold while the case works its way through the court. So that is the latest on that. We've seen a lot of this, obviously, push and pull in the court system as all of this moves very quickly. Also, all right, breaking right.
Please, somebody ban Rowan, Sarah. I need mods on top of this stuff tonight. Make sure this person is banned immediately. We have a lot of trolls here trying to take advantage of our listeners. And you look like a freaking crusty hepatitis whore, by the way. Pick a better picture. I wouldn't fuck you with Leroy's dick.
I want to see this.
Yeah.
I want to see the picture.
I can't show you the picture. Or maybe I can. Hold on.
Oh,
There it
she
is.
looks like a cum sock.
Yeah, just rode hard and put away wet. Let's ban that hooker. When is the Democrat Party going to stop sexually mutilating children? When are they going to stop advocating for policies that lost them in this election? When are they going to realize that they're I hate to say this because it's almost to the point where it's not very hard for me to say because there is so much evidence. The preponderance of evidence is just overwhelming. It's almost like they are 1930s, 1940s Germany with the experimentation that they had with Jews. It's like they're running their own little petri dish on children. When is this shit going to stop, dude?
I wish I had an answer for that one that was something based on reality, but I don't. I just know that, we all have heard of the Hippocratic Oath that the doctors are supposed to take of do no harm. And for whatever reason, whether or not you want to call it gender affirming care or child mutilation or straight up just child abuse, um, I am always dubious about the treatments for that kind of thing. When someone says that they have gender dysphoria, think about the
You don't want
treatment.
Elon Musk to have.
Think about the treatment that's involved with that, right? You're going to get pumped up full of hormones, right? If you're already confused about your gender, I go to a doctor, I go to a white coat, I say, hey, I think I might be a chick, right? That doctor is then going to look at me and go, oh, well, we need to give this person gender affirming care and we're going to pump them full of hormones. Do you think that's going to make me, is that actually going to cure me? Is that going to treat me? Or is my male body at that point going to take in all of this estrogen and not know what the hell is going on? Is that going to exacerbate the problem? Right?
So,
And so
okay,
you
go
end
ahead.
up in the situation where if I were to run out to my woodshed, whip out the axe, lop it off myself, I would be called crazy. But if somebody else does it for me in a white lab coat, then it's okay.
Right.
That's where we're at.
Let me ask you a question. And I don't even need to look at this judge's decision. I promise you, I guarantee you, this douche plow used the Eighth Amendment to go ahead and apply this to children. First of all, the Eighth Amendment doesn't apply to children unless they're tried for adults. So this is a complete miscarriage of justice. This whole entire argument of basing child sexual mutilation on some prison inmates is as far as a stretch of tying Roe v. Wade to the right to privacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how private you are, you have no right to murder a human being. And I don't care how unfairly treated you are in prison, it doesn't give you carte blanche to cut off a child's dick. Okay? Right. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. But the Eighth Amendment says this. You can open up your book to page 30 in your dumb show only Constitution, leather bound, 144 pages with gold inlay. Gorgeous.
Oh, pretty.
The Eighth Amendment says excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. I guarantee you this judge's decision, if we go ahead and read further through this, has absolute ties to the Eighth Amendment with cruel and unusual punishment. So, Leroy, here is my question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Who decides what's cruel and unusual? The inmate or the collective? Being different than collectivism, but the collective being the state's rights or federal rights of the inmate based upon the law. Who decides what's cruel and unusual, the inmate or the law?
You're catching me in an odd moment because I feel like the correct answer should be the individual, but I feel like the way things have been trending is that
a prisoner who's went through habeas corpus.
What I mean by that is like the individual having a bill of rights, and not necessarily prisoners, because depending on the degree of the crime, they give up a lot of those rights, but they're still an individual. And if someone were to say steal from that person, it's still a violation against them as an individual. So I still feel like the correct answer is the individual, but I feel like
that's crazy. I don't understand how you can come to that conclusion. So a person rapes a woman and kills and murders their son and daughter, goes to prison, loses their rights, is on death row. And that person says, I am being treated cruel and unusually by the system. And what they're doing is they are not allowing me to play Nintendo. So therefore, I am claiming the 8th Amendment and to seek retribution against this and request a low max security prison instead, with 3 hots and a cot, with prime rib, with au jus and a baked potato, and a brand new PS5 with an Xbox One and the new Nintendo Switch system. You're telling me you agree with that?
No. I mean, and I said that it doesn't. Prisoners oftentimes they're given up their rights because of they're being held
Correct.
to account for their former deeds.
Okay.
But I guess maybe I just missed.
Yeah, let me
the
ask
way
the question again.
was.
Let me ask the
Yeah.
question again. In the 8th Amendment, it states, and I want to read it verbatim. So, and I'm not coming at you hard. I don't understand where you're
I
coming
know.
from, and I think it's because of my failure to ask the question correctly. Because I guarantee you do not think what you just said. Because I know you well enough. Excessive bail shall not be required. Who decides what excessive bail is?
Well, that's the state.
Okay.
That's the government.
Does the inmate get to decide that?
No.
Okay. Nor excessive fines imposed. Who gets to decide that?
That is also the state. It's already
Nor
that's
cruel
all that's
nor
documented in every state or in
nor
the
cruel
federal level.
nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted.
Right. That's also the state.
Okay. So once again, the inmate does not get to decide because they use their God-given rights to remove rights from another person, which therefore in turn their rights are essentially nullified. And it's decided by a universal code, which is called the state's constitution and all aforementioned laws within. Okay? So cruel and unusual isn't that you're having a hard time dealing with prison. It's torture. It's sexual assault. It's theft. It's getting beat with a fire hose. These things are all clearly laid out in penal code. So the argument of the judge that this somehow violates the 8th Amendment is moot because the inmate doesn't get to say, because I'm a female in my psychosis, that I need special drugs, and if you don't give them to me, then it's cruel and unusual punishment. This is why this entire injunction is going to be eradicated. And an underage child is not allowed to smoke a cigarette, own a gun, join the military, drive a car, look at porn, drink alcohol. We have rules and standards in this country. They should not be able to lop off their genitalia or be guided to do so without parents' understanding, consent, and permissions. If this happens, it is a violation of the social contract that we have with our government. So this entire case, in my opinion, is moot. Leroy, your thoughts on that? Disagree with that? Do you agree that the 8th Amendment is being violated because this guy doesn't get his medicine so we can start lopping children's penises off now?
Well, and I think I was in a little bit of confusion because we're talking about children, but we're also talking about prisoners, and we're talking about free people versus individuals who have already violated the law and voluntarily by that statute given up their rights. So
Sure.
I guess maybe I was just a little.
But children don't have rights.
Well, that's exactly the point. Children are not fully grown adults yet, and they are. There are laws that are put in place specifically to protect them.
Custodial or guardian care. Custodial or guardian care.
So when we start talking about child abuse or child mutilation, or it doesn't matter if it comes from a doctor or a parent, if you start lopping off body parts, that's abuse.
Right. You and I completely agree. And that's why I just had to re-ask the question, right? Because I knew you didn't think think that. Now, individual rights are very, very important to Leroy, and we care about them very much. But a prisoner has foregone those rights based upon their actions, and a underage person has not obtained those rights based upon that they require a legal guardian or it's not a conservatorship. It's a guardian or
Yeah, I know what I think it is
custodial care. So it needs to be somebody from the state or government or a loved one or whatever else. But a legal guardian.
And why do we do that? Right? Why do we do that? It's because until people are a little bit older, right, their frontal cortex isn't developed enough in order to make those rational decisions. They don't have that ability yet. And so that's why we make that line in the sand that says, hey, once you're 18 or 21 for beer, until you get to that point, we are basically saying as a society that you are not developed enough in the prefrontal cortex to make those types of decisions for yourself. Not yet.
Right. This is just more political lawfare where some uppity judge who does not like Donald Trump has decided to go ahead and use and abuse the legal system to tie it to the Eighth Amendment, which most people don't even know what the Eighth Amendment. Most Americans can't even tell you the first three amendments. That's like pretty much like 90% of Americans would not be. If I go walk the street, if I ask you what the first two are, I think maybe half would get it. If I ask you what one,
I would think most people would get that one, but the no quartering soldiers, yeah, people.
No, they're going to get number 3, and they're not going to get 4 or 5. Most people who are educated stop at 5.
Yeah,
but the Eighth Amendment is completely, when you talk about the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, has essentially all tied up to due process and habeas corpus, and the Eighth Amendment was put into place from taking black people in the back of the jailhouse and beating them with clubs until they admitted doing something. That's what that is. It's not that you feel uncomfortable because you're wearing boxers instead of G-string fucking panties. Okay. And you attaching that as a judge to 3 mentally ill people so you could go ahead and sexually mutilate children. Fuck you. There needs to become a level of not just financial accountability, but this is criminal. And these people and these judges need to be defrocked, disbarred, and face criminal charges for their decisions. This is a malpractice of law. This is a ridiculous decision. To associate this with the Eighth Amendment but this is the difference between collectivism. Once again, they're saying, okay, because there's prisoners who are uncomfortable, now all people, including children, get to benefit from my decision, versus saying, wait a second, we're going to address just this one situation, this one-off. We're going to put an injunction on it to make sure the White House and White House counsel can go ahead and review it. We're going to meet behind closed doors. We're going to have a conversation and see if maybe an exception can be made to this rule. No. What they're saying is, okay, this one little thing, we need to take care of these prisoners because this is under the Eighth Amendment. Now everyone can get their dick lopped off, including kids. That is the difference between liberal justice and what individualism is all about, which is what a republic is. This is why we are not a democracy. Although we have, up until 3 weeks ago, man, I'll tell you, not a lot of republic and a hell of a lot of democracy was going on. Right now, this is what conservatives look like. It is cutting and slashing, wasteful spending, bloated programs, pork barrel politics, unnecessary jobs. This is what it looks like. We're going to talk about it coming up in the segment right after this. Take a listen. Go over to Wimkin. Leroy, good stuff, man. Thanks for your contributions.
Your feed, just genuine conversations and a commitment to protecting your rights. Sign up today at wimkin.com and take back your voice. Tell them Matt and the Dumb Show sent you.
275 plus on 190 on our standard networks, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, whatever. But when we go ahead and blend in Wimkin and Rumble, We are up in the 275 range, so it's good to have so many people here. We appreciate it. We're going to dive into a C block, and we are talking about RFK's emotional accolades for Trump. What do you think about RFK, Leroy? What's your overall opinion? Just initial gut check thoughts.
Well, and that's an ever sliding slide. It's a slide rule, right? So far, I like the guy. He when people talk about bipartisanship, right? This is a Democrat who's in charge, reaching across the aisle and saying, "Hey, you Republican, I would like you in charge of this," right? When a Republican is in charge, doing the same thing. RFK, he
Access
is
to your
a
sensitive.
perfect dude. And it's just unfortunate that his own party has disowned him from with this idea of, oh, he's going into the Trump camp. So far, all of the decisions that he's made, not all of them, but most of them, I've been pretty behind.
Information now. Really? That's kind of funny considering.
It's not me, it's Twitter. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. No. I was saying, I agree with a lot of what he's done so far. Like, I can get behind some of this, the banning of the red dye 40, or looking after certain preservatives in foods that may have been banned in other countries, right? But we're still using them. Why? Well, it makes you wonder again about the effectiveness of things like the FDA. So far I can get behind the guy.
So, listen, he's a liberal, and I don't care. We're going to need him. And I'll tell you why. And when we do 2 segments away from this, sorry about, I've been really good about muting that, but unfortunately, sometimes I just can't get to it in time. And I'm sorry about that.
No.
Robert F. Kennedy was confirmed today. And I just want to let people know, a lot of people are like, oh, why are the Democrats so slow? Listen, I don't like Cornyn. I didn't think he was a great choice. But let me explain something. This is the fastest in Republican history that we have ever confirmed 19 cabinet positions. It usually takes twice as long as this. We're well into March to get 19. So Cornyn is continuing to pack these confirmations and getting them turned and burned. And every time a Democrat opposes, he goes, fine, and he punches the clock. He doesn't wait till the next day. If they submit something at 11:59, you're damn Skippy at 12 o'clock. He's right there to go ahead and count it as a full day. So 19 cabinet positions. RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, both confirmed. Kash Patel is right around the corner. Excuse me, a little protein shake. But Kash Patel is right around the corner. And let me tell you, without Kash Patel, this is all for naught.
Yeah.
You have to get the FBI. The FBI is the intelligence agency that is allowed to work inside the United States, and it can work under the confines of secrecy and shadow. You must control the FBI. And without it, none of this is going to matter. Okay? None of it. Because the real teeth to this corruption is going to be the FBI's job to uncover, because they handle paper crime. They handle misappropriation of funds. They handle embezzlement. They handle this scale of fraud. Without the FBI, we can't do this. Thoughts on that before I play this clip, which is just beautiful, by the way?
When you think about the agencies that work actively exterior to the United States, and I'm talking CIA, DIA, NGA, right? Those are all agencies with huge purse strings that are operating outside the United States. The FBI is the only one that's working inside, and so there's this executive order, and I think it came in under Reagan, EO 12333, that basically says that no intelligence agencies are supposed to be, looking at citizens of the United States. Fair enough. Is the FBI an actual intelligence agency? They're a crime investigating agency,
Counterintelligence,
right?
maybe a little bit.
Right. And so there's a lot of gray area in the FBI that says, all right, um, if they do have any intel gathering capability, then how do we know about it, first of all? I mean, where's the oversight for that? And if they are able to violate that, granted, they may not be an intelligence agency on their own, but is there enough gray area that, well, they're not an intelligence agency, so they can collect? Because that's exactly what seems like has been happening.
I'm gonna argue a little bit about this. The FBI is most assuredly an intelligence agency. They have a counterterrorism unit, and they are funded, and they receive $130 billion annually for Department of Defense and discretionary spending. That a lot of that is channeled into the FBI. You know this, and by having a counterterrorism unit, they have access to every single alphabet you just mentioned, including NRO, NSA, and
Right.
every other alphabet agency. So the FBI turned that with the Patriot Act and turned that with Joe Biden when they started considering parents to be domestic terrorists and started investigating on U.S. soil. We also know that the executive order by Reagan does not count for the CIA as long as they attach themselves to another agency that is allowed to work with inside the continental United States of America. So the CIA, if they want to go ahead and run an op inside the U.S., all they got to do is attach themselves to the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, or any other government agency. This is, you're right, the FBI goes after blue-collar crime. The FBI goes after all the things we would anticipate, but they have moved into the intelligence apparatus more now than ever. And this is where it's a go-around from the CIA to run certain collection softwares that you and I both know exist, about 26 of them, 26 of them plus, that have the ability to access every single bit of information that any American consumes and disseminates. And this is a gross miscarriage of what the Patriot Act was intended for. It was supposed to be a passive listening program, and now it has become an active violation of every American's right to privacy. Kash Patel is essential for this.
Well, my whole point was that they may not be a dedicated, like, intelligence.
Oh yeah, you're right.
May not
You're
be
right.
in their
Yes.
in their title. However,
Right.
comma, they still have JWICs being pumped into the building. They still
Yes.
have SIPRNet being pumped
Yep.
into the building. And
Don't
so
go
they
too
still
far.
have
Don't go too far.
access. I know. They still have all of those. They still have all of those fingers that are outreached into those different agencies. And this is like the whole, if anybody has ever seen Sicario, right? The whole premise behind that was like, you've got this CIA operative who can't really do anything within the United States. And so what they do is they basically lie to this FBI agent and say, hey, why don't you come work with us for a little bit? We'll make some dents in the old drug trade. And in the meantime, these guys are knocking people off. They are doing full-on legitimate hits, and it's all under this guise of, well, it's legal because we have an embedded FBI agent who we haven't told
mutual cooperation, interagency cooperation. So, and I know you know, but no, you've got an active clearance that you don't go into naming system. You just don't do that. You don't get to do that.
You can say
You
that.
cannot. You cannot.
Yes,
I don't want you to. Okay, okay, you can say whatever you want. My point is that I don't want you to. Okay? Because I don't want the flag. If it comes out of my mouth, it's completely different. If it comes out of your mouth, you get flagged, and then they start looking into who you are, and then you get noticed, and you don't need that attention.
Yeah.
Say good. Yes, Dad. Yes, Dad.
Yes, dear.
I'm looking out for my boy. Looking out for my boy. Nothing he said was anything TS or whatever. The point is that you start naming those things, you start naming systems, and you start talking about things that have information. The NSA is fucking paranoid right now, okay? The Snowden thing, they're very fucking paranoid right now. A lot of people are paranoid right now. So Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Sicario is a good movie. Here is the RFK video. I wasn't trying to dress you down. I'm just looking out for you, brother, because you're my boo. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
All right. Here is RFK's statement right before his confirmation, and I thought it was touching, and a great tribute to Donald Trump. And this is what I wanted to talk about: is Donald Trump breeds loyalty. Why? We're going to find out. Listen to this.
For 20 years, I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump. All right. And he gave me... He's now given me, he's kept every promise that he's made to me. He's kept his word in every account and gone way beyond it. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. A lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump. I better get it in writing. And we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. Right. And I'm so grateful to him, and I've told you before, I genuinely believe that you are a pivotal historical figure, and you are going to transform this country.
Is Donald Trump? Yeah, I mean, dude. I mean, talk about some accolades. It's like
accolades.
When I hear you, it's like what you sound like when you talk about me. So, what does this? Is Donald Trump a generational, transformational figure? And let me just give you a couple of examples of who would have been a generational, transformational figure. Abraham Lincoln, without a doubt, transformed the entire face of this country, good or bad. It is what it is. Okay. Steve Jobs is a generational, transformational figure. Certainly not an inventor, certainly not even a good coder, but a hell of a marketer, and transform this entire country. Elvis Presley is a generational, transformative figure who stole music from the black man and made it okay for black people to play music. That's really the truth. It's really the truth. Transformative figure would be Shel Silverstein, a writer, a fantastic writer who helps children understand poetry and context with a very simplistic Peanuts / Norman Rockwell style approach, but just writes gorgeous and beautiful poetry that inspires children to exercise art, and in my opinion is one of the most important books in public education in the kindergarten and first grade level. Shel Silverstein. Okay, and I can go on. Those are transformative figures generationally. Is Donald Trump a generational transformative figure? Go.
I think arguments can be laid at either side. My personal feeling is yes, he absolutely is. And I think our next segment will will be all of the evidence that we need to reinforce that.
Yeah, you guys got to stick around for this because it's actually this. It's E Block. D Block's going to be good too, but I agree with you. I want to hold it for that because I think when we get into E Block, it's really going to blow doors. I will say this. I agree with you. I think it depends on the perspective, but I think in the short term he is, and in the long term he will be. It depends upon your perspective right now. I think that Donald Trump in 25 years will be looked back on as one of the greatest presidents we ever had once all the drama is gone.
Yes.
Once people have moved on to hate somebody else, they'll realize, Donald Trump wasn't that fucking bad. But let's get to the next segment, and then we'll talk about it.
The Dumb Store is veteran-owned with a 5-star diamond rating for service and satisfaction. We offer quality products like coffee, shirts, hoodies, and hats, all made by veterans. Shop with confidence, backed by hundreds of 5-star reviews. Use code DUMB10 to save 10%. Visit thedumbshow.com today. Thank you for your support.
Hey, Leroy.
Hey, Matt.
I don't like the British.
Who does?
I don't know. I don't know if you knew that. This is an interesting thing, and I want you to walk me through a timeline, if you would not mind. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to take me back to 2 some odd years ago with Ukraine, where you and I were on the same page. I'm sorry, I've got protein, like esophagus things going on here, man. I just reintroduced protein to my diet after working out, and I'm just like, I hate it, and it's just like bleh. Anyway, so it sounds like I'm a whimpering husky. Anyway, you and I, 3 months before the minor incursion, as President Trump said, or Biden said, where you and I said Putin will not enter. But then, like 72 hours after that, we started seeing troop buildup. And once he eclipsed 150,000, you and I said, wait a second, we want to reassess our predictions. And this is where a famous prediction of mine happened and a famous prediction of yours happened, which we're not going to relitigate this. We know. But there was 3 things that we said once this kicked off that would need to happen to end this war. And the 3 things that we said that I remember, and you can correct me, is that Ukraine could never rejoin NATO, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is that Russia would be able to keep the Donbass and Donetsk region and still have access to the Black Sea. And number 3 is that they would be able to continue to keep Crimea, and Ukraine could not go back to a 2014 pre-Zelensky and American installation of democracy. And we were called Russian bots. And we were called soft on Putin and insulted ad nauseum. Do you remember this in any other way than what we just said? Do you remember it in any other way than what I just said?
No, I remember having these conversations quite in depth. So just so that everyone understand, if you're new to watching this show, this is why you're tuning in. What you've got here are 2, not 1, 2 former Navy intelligence analysts who have examined all of this type of geopolitical strife in depth. Now, me personally, I know what Matt's history is. Me personally, I was with EUCOM for better than 12 years. So when someone hears that term, EUCOM, stands for European Command. Russia is what we studied. Russia, I really don't want to get into too much of the other ones, but let's just say we know all about it. Okay, we've been studying this stuff for years. And
decades. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
When I'll say it. I was actually over in Molesworth back in 2014 when things started popping off. And myself and a friend of mine were some of the first analysts on station to start examining what was happening. So if that tells you anything about the level of expertise here. So when we're talking about these 3 points, spot on, right? Whether or not Ukraine should have joined NATO. Well, the fact of the matter is they had an application in for a long time. And it was denied several times because they knew at some point that if Ukraine were to have joined NATO, then that shrinkage of area between Moscow to what we would call the Iron Wall or the Iron Curtain would have shrunk even more. It puts Russia in a very tough place. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. They do. But let's face it, under the Clinton administration, right? He was told, Vladimir Putin was told, or was it Gorbachev? No, it was Putin, right?
No, it was under
That we would
Clinton.
not
So it would have
expand.
been Yeltsin.
That's right.
Yeah, it would have been Yeltsin and Clinton made the deal.
Yeah. But basically the deal that was made was, oh yeah, we're not going to expand NATO. And what happened? We expanded NATO. So with regard to Russia and the Donbass region and their retention of the Black Sea, access to the Black Sea, that's all because of a giant Navy base there. It's their largest Black Sea fleet that's home ported out of Sevastopol. So they need that in order to remain effective as a nation. And we made the argument for that, and the retention of Crimea. And Russia is always slimy about this kind of stuff. What they do is they will say, well, there's X number of ethnic Russians there, so we're just looking out for their best interests. And there's absolutely zero evidence of that. You can make that claim. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate you,
The
Lynn.
dumb
Thank you so
Joe.
much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
So when someone makes that kind of claim, we're doing this because we're looking out for the ethnic Russians that were in that region that were formerly part of the satellite Soviet Republic. Yeah, that's just a slimy way to basically say we're going to invade this country and put down everyone else that we disagree with, whether or not we find any actual ethnic Russians or not. So, yes, we've hashed over every one of those points.
So, Earl, this is a whole other conversation. World War II was America's ally. Dude, that's a misnomer. Yes, we used Russia to eliminate Germany so we could go fight in the South Pacific. And we leveraged monies to England in order to not get involved in Germany. But if you ask any analyst or any history buff, Russia was an end to a means, and most of the United States military leadership wanted to invade Russia once the Japanese surrendered. So that's a whole other conversation, and one we've covered on this show. We'll be happy to cover it again. But Russia is not our friend, and I could walk you through why, but not tonight because I'm not going to get distracted. But Russia, we are not pro-Russia in any way, shape, or form. What we are telling you is what it was going to take to end this war. And for 2 years, I've been hearing that I'm anti-Ukraine. I'm not pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia. I think they're both fucking horrible places. I'm not a Ukraine fan. It's corrupt. It's run by mafiosos and oligarchs. It's predominantly Russian. The corruption, money laundering, sex trafficking, drugs, the Azov Battalion, we know, the ties to Nazi Germany that they emulate a lot of the Nazi and Luftwaffe and the SS. And no, I'm not a fan of Ukraine, but I'm also not a fan of Vladimir Putin because I know, like all Russians, he has one desire and only one desire of old Mother Russia, which is to conquer Europe. Real quick, I got to get into these videos because we've got like 3 of them and they need to be seen. A whole nother conversation. Evelyn says, I remember that I think Ukraine will give Russia more zones, regions than that. I think it should be from the East River, Russia to West River, Ukraine. It doesn't matter. It essentially is the border of Ukraine, which has predominantly been under civil war since 2014, will be on the table. And it needs to be a demarcation zone. It needs to be a DMZ, demilitarized zone. No military in between for 30 miles west, 30 miles east along the Russian border. It's a DMZ. It's very similar to what's going on in South Korea and North Korea. You create that buffer zone. You make it Russian and call it a day and stop this nonsense. And you have NATO come in and you put non-U.S. military forces in there and you keep a protection security force on there. And you put them in all 9 of the major Ukraine cities. A 150 U.S. NATO security force, and if they get attacked, then Article 5 is hit, and then we go to war. So you make it impossible for Putin to attack these 9 cities again. You give him what he wants. You tell him they won't be in NATO for at least 2 decades, and you call it good and move from the table. All right, we need to get into this. Gosh darn, another question. Matt Leroy, did you see where the EU want to be involved, meeting Zelensky and Trump, discussing the terms? Well, I'm trying to go into that. So yeah, let me get into that, and then we can talk about it.
We're there. We're there.
Russia was attacked. Russia turned on Germany when Hitler turned on Russia. Yes, but Russia also antagonized and formed against Germany too. So let's not, guys. I'm not going to go into World War II tonight. I've done it too many times. You can't do this because it's one of my favorite topics in the world, and you're gonna totally derail me. Okay, don't, because there's too good of what we have coming on. So and for 87.94. I'm not going in overtime. I can't do it. I can't afford to. So we got to get this show going. So I got to say no for the first time, probably ever. Here is the UK. The UK believes that the United States and it should continue to push Ukraine to join NATO and put U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine. This is what the UK wants. And the UK thinks that this is a great betrayal to Europe. You know what? I've got 1,776 reasons not to give a flying fuck what the United Kingdom wants. Listen to these egotistical dipshits.
To surrender its own sovereign territory to Russia. It will be the greatest betrayal of a European ally since Poland in 1945. But President Trump says Ukraine may end up Russian, and he wants American money back. I think we all fear where this could end and the dangerous implications for our defence and our security. So can the Prime Minister reassure this House that he and other European leaders have given sufficient support to President Zelensky so that he can't be bullied by Trump and Putin into accepting a deal who will effectively hand victory to Russia?
Prime Minister. As he knows, I met President Zelensky in Kyiv just a few weeks ago at my 8th meeting. The position since the outbreak of this conflict has been a united position across the House of supporting Ukraine, and I was able to reiterate my position, which is we must put Ukraine in the strongest possible position. That matters now just as much as it mattered at the beginning of this conflict, the strongest possible position, and I did discuss with him what more we can do, what more our allies can do to put Ukraine in the strongest position.
I usually hand it over to my esteemed colleague, but he knows how much I hate the fucking English. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what I think. Then put your fucking troops there. Go ahead and replace our carrier groups with the HMS. Go ahead and put the Royal Brigade there and the Royal Marines there. Go ahead and stick British SAS doing what we're doing in Poland, which we've been training their entire fucking forces. And you can bankroll them too, because the United States is getting out. Why doesn't England do something for once? Instead of pointing fingers at the entire world to do their fucking bidding, why don't they get their limey motherfucking asses over there and actually join the fucking fight and do something instead of telling what the United States to do? I am so fucking sick of England. Take a giant fucking jump off the cliffs of fucking Dover and hit every rock on the way down, you limey fucks. Go ahead, Leroy, your turn.
You feel better?
No.
No.
Well, fucking parliament.
So the problem is that from the parliament, and they actually outlined it perfectly. They already told you what their end goal was. It's self-preservation. They just want to make sure that Russia doesn't ever get strong enough to potentially threaten the entire area again. Here's why they're wrong. The moment we got involved with this feud between Ukraine and Russia, I don't want everyone to think of this as Ukraine and Russia. Think of it as two rival mafia gangs, because they are both slimy.
Oligarchs.
And when the UK is caught in the middle, when Great Britain says that, hey, we're caught in the middle here, they're not entirely incorrect, right? Here's the problem. One of those rival gangs is armed to the teeth with nukes. And they have been embarrassed by their own ground game militarily, that now the world knows that this patchwork army from Ukraine has been able to fend off this gigantically advertised Mother Russia, holy hell is coming type army, right? Now everyone knows that their effectiveness is not what everyone thought that it was. They were advertise it as one thing, as it turns out, it's something completely different. The problem with that is that if we ever did get into a ground game up against Russia, we're going to kill them. We are going to absolutely dominate on the field. There will be nothing left in terms of Russian tanks, Russian troops. There will be nothing left. And then what do they have left that they can still do? Nukes. And we don't want to risk that.
And we will kill their Navy before they even know what the fuck is happening. And I'm not going to go into any specific terms, but imagine if you could walk up against your enemy and have a gun pointed at the back of his head,
right,
every second of the day. That is what we have with every vessel in the Russian Navy. Okay? We have a gun to the back of their fucking head. And most of the time, they don't even know it. So they have their Air Force. They're not even going to get off the ground. Bombers, we don't even have to enter their fucking airspace. Russia would be destroyed because the ROE is all 5 branches of the military at Russia. We didn't do that with Iraq. We didn't do that. You didn't see us taking over all their airports. You didn't see us hitting their command and controls, knocking out all their power, their water, because there's overkill. But with Russia, you would have to take out multiple power, multiple water, multiple communications, a lot of military equipment. But trust me when I say this, all they got are nukes. And even that is suspect because their targeting and acquisition is not even remotely what it once was. So whole other conversation. Fuck the UK. And I'm not talking about, I got people at British SAS. I know people in MI6. I've got friends in the Royal Marines, the Royal Navy. I love my English friends. I can't stand Parliament and Queen and Country.
Right.
Okay? I can't stand the fucking crown. I'm
Same.
sorry. I am a middle European and I don't like the fucking English. And I have reason to. Because I don't care if I go to my Welsh side. I don't care if it's Irish or Scottish or French or Dutch or even Greeks. England was the largest and most brutal oppressor of world conquerors ever in world history. Makes Attila the Hun look like Captain Kangaroo. Okay? Fuck the English. I have not forgotten.
When my mom was still coming to visit the show, she was always a huge fan of The Crown and all of these television shows that kind of put up British royalty on this pedestal. And I always had that debate about that with her. I was like, why do you like this so much? And she's like, oh, they're amazing. They're so classy. They're the creme de la creme. I'm like, no, these are dictators. These are the people that could literally have any person, any citizen in England just thrown in prison, just cause, right? I never understood the fascination with that ever. I think it's an atrocity that the crown and that parliament and that the family over there has that much authority. That's why I absolutely, when we're talking about our defense of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, I mean that to my bones. Because it is exactly to keep something like England from ever happening again.
Okay, we got to move forward. I got a shit ton to do. Cool. And Mad Mike says one of their nuclear subs might escape detection. No. Mike. No. It might as well be a snowblower in the middle of the Atlantic. Okay? No.
One of them two.
They might as well be playing fucking Ozzy Osbourne out of Rockford Fosgates, pumping it into the water. You don't understand the capabilities of the United States Navy now. The United States, Russia is still using 90s and 2010 technology, and we're using over the horizon fourth gen type, some fifth gen type technology. And SAPs and these outdated programs are not what they once were. I can't go into a whole bunch of detail. I will just tell you this: we're getting 3D rendering from our sonar now. Okay, 3D fucking rendering. So the things that we can do underwater are completely different than Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide. Okay, those are outdated tactics. Okay, Jonesy isn't squawking over the earpiece listening to Pavarotti and Paganini anymore. Okay, our systems are state of the art, and they might as well be swimming in 18-wheelers. Okay, here is a video, and we've been up those tailpipes of every one of those vessels for a long time, brother. Here is Trump schooling Caitlin Collins on Ukraine. Then I'm going to show you Pete Hegseth, and then we're going to call it good and move on to
very foolish thing to say.
A very good segment. I agree with Trump right here. Saying that it's a minor incursion was one of the stupid, dumb, idiotic blunders that Biden did. He gave Russia a green light to do what they did. Here it is.
It's President Biden's fault, not President Putin. I mean, he's the one.
I think Biden is incompetent, and I think when he said that they could join NATO, I thought that was a very stupid thing to say. I thought when he said, well, it depends if it's a minor incursion. In other words, it's okay if Russia does a minor incursion. I thought that was a very foolish thing to say. The other thing that got it started was how badly Milley and these stupid people, these bad generals, how badly they did with Afghanistan. I was going to pull out, but we were pulling out with dignity and strength, and we were going to take our equipment with us and everything else. What they're doing is what they did with that. I think Putin looked at that mess and he said, wow, this is a great time. I'm going to go in. But what the Americans said, I'm not blaming Americans, but I will say what they said had a big influence on his decision.
All right, fair enough. I happen to agree. Foreign policy wasn't his strong point. Here is Pete Hegseth talking about Ukraine, and this is absolutely perfect. For all those people that said we were pro-Russia and all that, no, we just told you what to do to end this war 2 years ago, and it just took you stupid sons of bitches to go ahead and not listen to anybody. This is all Putin wanted. Leroy, I give him credit. He broke it down 700 miles to be covered and protected for Russia, which was highly a wheat yield and oil production economy with sanctions from U.S., put Russia in a position that they had to start looking 10 years down the road, seeing Ukraine possibly joining NATO, knew that was the end of Russia. I'm not a fan of Russia. I don't like Russia. But if we went ahead and took Montreal and Vancouver and fucking BC and Calgary and Toronto and everyone, and just left a little sliver of Halifax, and that's all we had protecting our northern border. And then Russia decided to go ahead and occupy Halifax. We would probably be a little pissed. Just because we can put ourselves in the position of Russian government and military doesn't mean we're sympathetic to them. It means it's our fucking job to do that. I'm sorry I'm cussing. I'm a little fired up. Here's Pete Hegseth.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine. The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and
Greg, do me a favor. Joking, not joking, don't care. Do me a favor. You've been on my show a long time. You're a nice guy. Got no problem with you. Just take it down a notch. If a lady says she doesn't want to hear it, just leave it alone. Let's talk about something else, okay? I'm not coming down on you, but Jen is... Greg, just knock it off, bro. Leave Jen alone. Okay? Can we just watch the fucking show and stop playing grab ass? No
God's
shit. I mean,
sake.
fuck, dude. What are we, in high school?
Non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed.
All right. So once again, and scratch that. I think I said I want UN for Article 5. That was opposite of what I said. Put in a security force. How about British? That'd be great. Let's put some fucking British soldiers there. But either way, this is really simple. This is really simple. Don't try to revert Ukraine back to 2014. Don't try to take Crimea. Obama lost that. We're not getting it back. Go ahead and give them access to the Black Sea. Make sure they get Donetsk. Make sure they get the Donbass region. Let's make sure that they have at least a security on the border. And let's make sure we guarantee no joining NATO for at least 2 decades. You do that, Vladimir Putin will be dead, and hopefully we have cooler heads prevailing.
Right. And think about the implications of an all-out victory for either Great Britain, the UK, or Ukraine, right? Say all of that happens. They just obliterate Russian forces. Great. Now there's no Russian military left.
Leroy, time out. I don't need all the mods to now piggyback on Greg and piggyback and jump on top of him. I already took care of it. Let's everyone worry about the show and listen to Leroy and I, or maybe this isn't your night and you just want to go and do something else, okay? But this isn't all. Let's go ahead and play Smear the Queer on Greg, okay? And that's, I know we're not supposed to say that anymore, but that's what it is. We don't need to beat him up. He's going to be quiet. He already said he's cool. He already said, okay, bro. He respects me. I respect him. Everyone's all good. Everyone feels good. But now you're distracting the show, okay? So everybody just stop. Okay, go ahead, Leroy. Sorry.
Russia loses. Let's just play this forward. Russia loses bigly. All of a sudden, they have no military left. They have no army game. They have no navy game to speak of. What would stop some foreign invader from just marching right on into Russia, which has happened something like 25 times over the last 200 years? They have been invaded. Why? Because their geography is not favorable. It is flat, open ground. That's what they ran into during World War II when Germany said, hey, guess what? We're coming in.
Right.
So if we don't give Russia something, right, and paint them into a corner, the last bullet in the chamber that they have is nukes. And nobody wants that. So we have to think about that. We have to play a smarter game with Russia. Putin, Matt's right. Putin is going to be gone in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, easily.
Right? He's already well past the average age of Russian male mortality. Already well past it.
And
So
Russian premiers.
Think about that.
And Russian premiers. They don't last very long. I mean, I want you to think about the changes. They're a fucking dictatorship. I mean, you got Khrushchev, you got Andropov, you got Gorbachev, you've got Yeltsin, you've got and you got Putin. Who am I missing? But these are dictators. I mean, this is a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Point is, we're moving on. Okay. The GOP is the old Democratic Party. You're going to want to stick around for this. Folks, it's 2044. 2044. It's the show goal 8794. I'm not worried. I know these people. You guys aren't going to let me down. You don't want to know what they did to me? They hold their donations till the end, so I flip out. So I'm not going to flip out anymore. You're not going to get the satisfaction from me. I'm not going to do it. What's up?
Real quick, when we go into this next segment, that alone, you're going to hear me and you're going to go, oh my God. You wrote an amazing paper, absolutely, but you're going to hear my opinion on this and go, absolutely, that was worth it. I'm ready to donate now. So
I'm excited. I love it. I hope that's what happens.
Join WimKen.com, the social media platform built for free speech and true connection. No censorship, no algorithms controlling your feed, just genuine conversations and a commitment to protecting your rights. Sign up today at WimKen.com and take back your voice. Tell them Matt and the Dumb Show sent you.
You know, it's kind of funny. The last segment's going to be fun too, because we're going to go into DOGE, and we might have a little overtime here. Maybe if they don't shut off my fucking internet. Leroy's going to take us out after this video, and I put together. I had a thought. I haven't been able to write a lot of articles lately because I've just been too busy. But occasionally, thank you, Charity. It's not much, but every little bit helps. Charity, you're damn skippy. It does.
God
you
love you.
are amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
No, if you have Ukraine join NATO, we'll have World War III within a year. Yeah, no. No. Yeah, Ukraine, no. NATO doesn't need to be getting bigger. NATO needs to be getting smaller. Yeah. The fact that we added Scandinavian countries to this, now it's just obnoxious. Now it's just like everyone against Russia. You are just literally provoking a fight. We've got to, no. Ukraine is a bridge too far. Ukraine should never join NATO. You don't need Ukraine. You need a demarcation line. Just put a 30-mile demarcation on that fucker. Nobody gets in or out. Leave it alone. Yep. Give him his space and let Putin hang himself. Okay? Let him hang himself. Okay?
He'll die. Time will take care of that. I guarantee it. He will pass on.
He's in the next, I think he's dead within the next decade. So let's just let that happen. Okay, enough. Moving on. What happened to liberals? A lot of people don't know this, is that conservatism and liberalism derive from the same place called classic liberalism. When everyone goes, I hate liberals, I'm like, well, then you hate conservatives. Because really, there was only about 5 things that liberals and conservatives didn't really agree on. Most of them were fiscal and overall size. But all this other shit just started getting added to the plate. Like, Democrats weren't for unfettered access to abortion in late term. In fact, when they sold abortion, and the arguments with Roe v. Wade was emergency procedure and would be limited and sparing. That was the language, limited and sparingly.
I remember Joe Biden giving that speech.
Yeah, Democrats used to be this, and I'm about to show you. So when I saw some stuff, I was like, I'm going to write this down. Where is the Democrat Party? And I realized it didn't go anywhere. It just became the GOP. And the GOP refound itself. And we're going to have this conversation. And Leroy's going to walk us through this. And I'll add some things basically that I wrote. But to see him so excited and get his juices flowing, it gets me excited that I could actually write something that would make him this happy. Watch this. Yeah. What happened?
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should.
Thank you, Kev. Matt and Leroy make a great team. Oh, we do. You should see us in the bedroom. I mean, wait a second. Wrong talk.
President will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign to cut waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting. There you go.
Interesting. Eric Burleson, if you want to go and see some of his work, has nothing to do with this segment, but it is important. As we look at where we were versus where we are, the second portion of this is going to be getting into DOGE, but Leroy wanted to run this, and something that I worked on for about 30 minutes before the show. Here it is. Leroy, go ahead and take it away.
So we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Matt had drafted this document, and I started reading it, and everything that that is listed on here is 100% accurate, and so much so that sometimes when you read something, this is just how my mind works. Sometimes when you read something, you can kind of see it in a chart type scale, and that's probably just one of the things that is left over from having done Intel so long. One of the things you have to do is create a lot of graphics. So when someone gives you a story, when someone gives you a document, if you can kind of visualize that, then all of a sudden a light clicks in and it makes things a lot clearer, right? If you can simplify it. So what Matt had sent me, and I'm going to read this. I'll take the first 5, and why don't you take the next 5? The GOP under Trump has absorbed elements of the old Democrat Party platform while maintaining its core conservative values. Here's how. Economic populism. The pre-Clinton Democratic Party was a pro-worker party focused on protecting American jobs. Trump has revived this with policies like tariffs, reshoring of manufacturing, and standing up to China. Number 2, trade protectionism. The old Democrats opposed free trade deals like NAFTA, fearing job losses. Trump renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA and prioritized American industry. Labor support. Historically, blue-collar workers voted Democrat. Under Trump, unions and working-class voters in Rust Belt states have shifted right as the GOP became the party of the working class. Anti-war stance. The old Democrat Party was skeptical of foreign wars. I have a window sitting over the rest of this. Hold on. Trump opposed those endless wars and brokered new peace deals and reduced foreign entanglements, shifting the GOP away from the Bush era of neoconservatism. And the last one that I'll cover is big government for the people.
Keep going. You're doing fine. Keep going.
Okay. The old Democrats supported government intervention when necessary. Trump used executive power to cut regulations, provide stimulus checks, and lower prescription drug costs, blending economic nationalism with limited government. Next point, civil liberties focus. The old Democrat Party fought against government overreach under Trump. The GOP has become the party challenging censorship, surveillance, and COVID mandates. Law and order without overreach. The old Democrats under Clinton pushed tough on crime policies. Trump promoted strong law enforcement while advocating criminal justice reform with the First Step Act. American First foreign policy. The old Democrats were once skeptical of foreign entanglements. Trump brought the GOP back to prioritizing American interests over globalist policies. Border security and worker protection. The pre-Obama Democrat Party, including figures like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, once supported stronger border policies. Trump solidified this stance in the GOP. Education reform. The old Democrat Party championed working class education. Trump shifted the GOP towards school choice, rejecting woke indoctrination and pushing back against radical education policies. While adopting these elements, Trump has kept the GOP core values intact: pro-life stance, Second Amendment defense, cutting taxes and deregulation, and judicial appointments. Trump's leadership has transformed the GOP into a hybrid of Reagan-era conservatism and pre-globalistic democratic populism, making it a true party of the American worker. Now, I get done reading all of that, and I'm seeing this chart. I see all of these words going on in my noodle, and this is what it looks like. Okay, you've got the left and the right. Okay, basically, politics is about selling your party's platform to the American people and getting them to buy into it. They have to believe your vision, and if they're convinced that you have that particular group's interest at heart, they're going to vote your way. So when we start talking about all of these people, so when we start talking about populism or gay Americans, when we start talking about the unions, right? When we start talking about blacks or the business community, in every one of those places, the Democrats have lost ground. And what has happened is that the Republican Party has filled in that void. They have sold that particular demographic on the idea of, hey, this is my guy. The Democrat Party is not the workers' party anymore. And this was the final creme to piece de resistance.
Yeah.
The ultimate leftist document is the Communist Manifesto, as written by Karl Marx. Now, I went ahead and pulled it up. In that document, the word workers, in reference to protecting the Workers' Party, in reference to unions, in reference to taking care of the blue-collar people and battling against the rich, as much as it's a hatred document, okay, the one thing that it did have going for it was this idea of protecting the common worker. The word workers, it was referenced in the Communist Manifesto 43 times, but Donald Trump has already taken that over. Why? Because our Democrat Party has gone so far left that they're not even concerned with the workers anymore. So the original document that is used is the idealist leftist playbook, and the Democrats have gone left of that. They have abandoned those values. So literally, we are watching the Democrat Party implode on itself because they're not even following the original playbook that was written by Karl Marx. That's how far left the Democrat Party has gone. Because when you start talking about the Worker Party, again, referenced 42 times in the Communist Manifesto, but we can see that all of the unions, all of the blue-collar workers, they're in support of Trump now. The Republican Party has filled that void because the Democrat Party has gone so far left, they're only concerned with transgenderism. They're concerned with what are some of the other crazy things that we've heard in the last open borders, right? They've gone
Everything
so
is
far
the
left.
opposite of common sense.
They've gone so far left that they have abandoned the very values that defined the left. So it is literally a party that has gone insane. They have lost contact with their originating document, as crazy as that is. And what has happened is Donald Trump has sold himself, has sold the values of the worker and the blue-collar industry, of bringing industries back and making things affordable again. Something that used to be in the Democrat playbook is now fallen into Trump's camp. That's why they lost.
It's a little further than that too. But it sums it up fairly well. Donald Trump did one thing. He effectively, in his first term, learned how to control the media.
Yeah.
in his run for president, he learned how to control the Democratic Party and gaslight them enough where they would talk about nothing else but Donald Trump. He literally, their stance 18 months before he declared running, they said, we cannot run on being the party that wants to beat Donald Trump. We cannot do that. Democrats said that. We have to run on the policy. We have to run on what we're going to do for America. We cannot make this about us running. And guess what? That's exactly what he made them do. And he forced them not only to do that, but run away while they were pontificating, while they were scheming, while they were plotting to how to get Trump. He made them run away from everything that they stood for. By having them talk only about Trump, he then would go ahead and take ideas from Reagan policies, the blue dog Democrat policies, to take the middle from the left. And when he started talking about economic independence and energy independence and strong military and borders and free speech and civil rights and essentially leave people alone in smaller government, what that did was make them run further to the left. I have never seen a Democrat Party in my lifetime be so far fucking left after the or before the general.
Yeah.
Can't
Thank you,
wait
JD.
for the next. Yes, JD, 2146. But can't wait for the next 4 years with this show. Usually right before the general, right after the primaries, they all run to their individual corners, but right before the general, they move to the middle. The left never made that move because the middle became Trump's ground. That was Agenda 47. He created a new middle ground, so he not only encapsulated the far right and the right, he took the middle and started bleeding into the moderate left. And he didn't do anything. He just simply made the leftists run away from their policies. And he took them as his own. So when they started saying free speech, what did they start saying? Well, you sound just like Trump. When Kamala started talking about border security, when she started talking about ACLU, when she started talking about workers' rights, what did everyone say? Well, are you going to have any of your own policies or just Donald Trump's? Did you guys watch this? Did you even see what happened? Anyone, I will take on any anti-Trumper and I will fucking destroy you. Because this guy, for what Steve Jobs was to marketing, is what Donald Trump is to gaslighting politics. This guy was masterful at what he did. Not only did he literally make the left run away from who they were, they helped him by saying everything they said about Joe Biden was true. I told you the worst mistake they could ever make is impeaching Joe Biden. And the second biggest mistake was them replacing Joe Biden. Republicans impeaching Joe Biden would have lost the election for Trump. I promise you that. And not running Joe Biden was the biggest mistake. I told you the incumbency is the biggest home court advantage in politics, and they surrendered it and gave it to a loser. A fucking loser.
The worst rated VP in history, according to NBC, and they're going to run with that, as opposed to Matt's point, which is the incumbent, the home court advantage that they gave up. Let's give up this huge advantage on this front.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Not on my watch. Come on, dummies. Where are you at? Thanks, Paul. Usually it's when people come in. They've been making it later and later, making me sweat. I'm sitting here going, I don't even know if we can get to F block. This document, I'm probably going to write an article tomorrow and put it up. I'd like to get Leroy's thoughts as well. But understand this. Somebody real quick in the chat says we have so many people on here. We got 200. Oh my God, we got 300 on, 325. Over on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, I can see your chats. I can't see over on Wimkin or Rumble, and I'm sorry. The software I use doesn't integrate. Do me a favor. What could Democrats run on in 2028? Please tell me some of the issues. Give me the issues that aren't transgenderism, open borders, abortion, the things that didn't work this time. What's their party platform going to be? Educate me.
You're asking me.
I'm asking the
This
listeners.
rhetorical.
I'm
Got
asking the listeners. Yeah. Help me understand what policies they're going to run on in 2028, because they know they can't beat Trump because Trump's not running. So they're going to have to take some of these policies back. What will they be? You can't name one because Trump owns all of them. Free trade? I want people to watch what happens with these sanctions. Trump hasn't imposed one sanction. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party extended the sanctions to 2025. They were supposed to expire at the end of his presidency. Why did the Democrats extend the sanctions against China if they didn't work? Because they worked. And yes, he had to subsidize the farm industry for a while, of course, because that's what happens with tariffs. But the long-term gain is it's going to bring jobs back. The United States wants to build data centers all over the United States. You're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs, billions upon billions of dollars in new manufacturing. Data centers lead to AI. AI leads to leading the world in it. But not only with AI, is how to go ahead and make more effective chipsets, how to make more effective agriculture equipment. Running paradoxes and problems through artificial intelligence is going to help us be faster and smarter than China and Japan and Taiwan, which we're not. And the reason why we're not is because our education sucks. But this is what he wants to bring. Free trade. He's the one that went ahead and took away NAFTA and put in USMCA. And they bipartisanly voted on it. Healthcare, great. How are you going to pay for it? It's the same old adage. You run on healthcare. Great, run on healthcare. You know what? Canada, you want to know what would happen if the United States imposed those tariffs on Canada? Canada would stop their free healthcare overnight. Fucking night, they would shut down healthcare. Let me take the call. Let me see. This is Matt from The Dumb Show. Who are we talking to?
Hi, Matt. It's Brian McGuire.
Brian McGuire, what's up, dude?
How you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Just watching the show, and I know we're talking about DOGE, and I was just curious on kind of your opinion on some of that.
Sure.
Well, just kind of as a backstory. So I'm a Marine, a former Marine. I served from 2003 to 2008, but I was an avionics tech. And I'm super excited about DOGE. I like the whole idea of it. I think that it's great.
Brian, real quick, where are you from? Where are you from, Brian?
I'm in South Dakota.
Okay, sorry. I always like to put it up for you. Go ahead, man. I'm listening. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah, I'm in South Dakota, but I mean, I just, back during that time, I was avionics tech. I actually rose very quickly. I was at a disadvantage because the MOS that I had as a Marine was closed. So it took me a long time to get to, non-commissioned officer and then move on from there and do what I needed to do. But I had scores that were just off the chain. And I mean, if I would have been like logistics or anything else, I would have been a staff sergeant by the time I got out of the Marine Corps, without a doubt. But the thing about it is like, while I was in, and I mean, I'm really looking forward to DOGE diving into the Department of Defense and their spending and whatnot. But I wonder, are they going to be able to really address the problems with the overspending that's going on in the government? Because I had to deal with it firsthand. And what I mean by that is that when I was doing my job, because I worked on F-18s, AV-8s, EA-6Bs, that's the Harrier and the Prowler.
Dude, you don't need to tell us that. We already knew, and we can tell you what the Alpha, Bravo, Echo, Charlie, and Delta versions are of all those. We're good. We know what they are. Go ahead.
Well, I know you know. That's for the
Leroy
general
does
audience,
too.
just so they
Leroy
kinda
does too.
understand.
He's really good at no. We love it when people do that because all we're thinking is we're like Hawkeye, Prowler, Tomcat, Grunt,
Oh yeah.
and we love it. We love it. Go ahead, man. I was just busting balls. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So since I was a rising star and I was very ambitious when I went in, I became a CDI, which for layman's terms, that's collateral duties inspector. But basically, to become a CDI in your MOS, if you're a Marine and you're working in maintenance, it basically means that you're a master of you're a level 4, you're like a master of what you work on, what you do. And then you have to take tests, and those tests that you take to become a CDI, you have to score like a 98% or above on all these tests to even become a CDI.
Right.
Like people don't understand. Like it's not rated on the average level of like a test that you would take in college or anything else. No,
Brian,
you can
we got
miss
it.
one or two questions, and the rest of it is
Yeah, let's get to the question, Brian,
if you
so
miss more
I
than
can
one or two
answer it.
questions, you're not it.
Yeah, give me the question so we can try to talk about it and answer it. Just because your qualifications are
Right.
obviously above board. So let's.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just so we had a budget meeting when I was in, and we were supposed to bring all these ideas to our command at that time when about what we could do to reduce the spending in avionics in our branch or whatever. I was in Iwakuni at the time. I was in Japan.
Yeah,
but,
I know it. I was in Yokosuka.
So I did a bunch of research. I found a whole bunch of things that we could do as government that we could recontract or whatever to eliminate a lot of this spending. And one of there was a couple issues that I approached. I approached the issue of tools that we were buying. We were buying from a third-party company that you probably couldn't even pronounce the name, that they had a 10-year contract with, and we were paying $68, for a fucking hammer. And then the other one that I went after was our solid-state devices like transistors and the rest of it.
Yep.
And with the tools, I brought up the idea that why don't we go through an actual company like Craftsman or whatever that has a lifetime warranty, that where if we buy those tools, because the tools that we had were shit, they would break all the time, and then we'd have to pay for replacing those tools. And I was like, if we went through like Craftsman or Snap-on or any of these others that have lifetime warranties and stuff like that, you could replace the tools for free, and you'd save a lot of money. And they shot that down. They're like, we can't violate our contract that we already have with these other companies. And then,
so Brian, I
then
got to
with,
interrupt
like,
you. Brian, I got to interrupt you. I could do this all night with you and listen to this, but I have got to get to a question because we're running low on time, and I'm trying to get to your point. So I understand, and I'll tell you why. Because you don't line item veto in the field. Okay, it's not the way it works. You line item veto at command. And the only way to ensure you line item veto in command are two different ways. Is that you have the politicians by the balls and you have a command that has balls. We now have the Pentagon run by a man who has balls, and we are about to have all the politicians by the balls. So there is nothing like public shame and embarrassment to get them to vote the way you want. And trust me when I say this, that J.D. Vance and the loyal members of the cabinet will go to these senators' offices and say, you got a choice. You're either going to fucking play ball and you're going to stand up and give us the 60 votes to make these changes, or we're going to go ahead and leak this to every fucking major paper in the United States. And that is not called blackmail. That's called good politics. And Democrats play that game very well. And Donald Trump has learned how to play that game better. And he is about to send all of them through a class on how to manipulate the political game in Washington, D.C. I believe that we have infiltrated the highest levels of the deep state and the corrupted U.S. government, and now we get to expose it or control it. And I don't care which one it is, as long as it limits the amount of money that they are raping us for on an annual basis. Go ahead and respond to that, Brian, and then we'll go from there.
Right. Well, I mean, that's basically what I was getting at. I was like, do you think that we'll be able to actually cancel these bullshit contracts that we have where we're paying this ridiculous amount of money for tools and
He already has.
or other things that we, we shouldn't be investing in. We should be going with stuff that is way to it. I mean, I literally got thrown out of the budget meeting because I said I got frustrated and I said, well, what fucking generals are we lining their pockets with some offshore account or whatever that we can't?
Yeah.
I mean, because if we even canceled these accounts and just bought into one of these companies that does this, I was like, we'd probably save money in the long run anyways.
Sure,
and
okay.
I was told that you're an out of line Marine and you need to get the fuck out of here. I was kicked out of that meeting.
Okay, listen. It sounds like every board meeting that I've ever been in the civilian sector and military sector in my life. Okay, I get it. We're NCOs. We don't get to make the decisions. We're not cake eaters. Okay, but the thing I will tell you is Mike just said exposing it doesn't solve much. The fuck it doesn't. These people want to be reelected. They have mortgages. They have book deals.
Right.
They have fucking TV contracts that they want to go ahead and fulfill when they get out. They have $200,000 on a lecture circuit waiting for them. Bullshit that exposing them doesn't fucking get you what you want, because it will literally be the Me Too movement for corruption. Once one of them go, they're all going to go, because they're all going to turn on each other and they're going to turn state's evidence to protect themselves and get immunity deals. You guys, this is how it's done. Information is power. J. Edgar Hoover understood it, and it is still the greatest asset in Washington is dirt. How do you think Nancy Pelosi made $240 fucking million? She has the dirt on everybody. Now, Brian, hang tight because we're going to go into the DOGE comments, and I want you to listen to it. We're going to be right back.
Join wimkin.com, the social media platform built for free speech and true connection. No censorship, no algorithms controlling your feed, just genuine conversations and a commitment to protecting your rights. Sign up today at wimkin.com and take back your voice. Tell them Matt and the Dumb Show sent you.
Jennifer Carver, my number one show. I'm so thankful for the Dumbs popped up in my groups you may like on Facebook feed. Jennifer, we love you. Thank you for the $20. Mel, thank you for your donation as well.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you, Mel.
We need a big hitter to come through tonight. I have a feeling we're gonna stay off our number unless we have a big hoss come in here. I want to show you something real quick when it comes to DOGE, because we're going to dive into some stuff, Brian. So you can either stay on the phone and listen, or you can jump off and watch, because we're going to go into some of the stuff that they've found, because I've got more information tonight. So the first thing I want to show you, Brian, you going to stay on or are you going to jump off?
I can stay on. It's not a big deal.
Okay, cool. So I got to close this little window here. Reuters puts out let me just show you how this is working. The timeline on this is unbelievable. Musk's DOGE cuts based more on political ideology than real cost savings. Reuters puts out an article. Okay, this was on February 13th. Then Elon comes in and literally on 13th says, I wonder how much more money Reuters is getting from the government. Okay. Then you're talking like a couple hours later, DOD paid Reuters $9 million for social engineering programs. DOGE investigations reveal mysteries. I wonder, Mario Nawfal did the leaked Twitter files for Trump or for Elon. Who do you think told Mario Nawfal that Reuters was getting paid by the government? I wonder how he got that information. Oh, gee. Then USA Spending releases official on usaspending.gov. The $8 million is cut and zeroed out, which is obviously by Elon Musk. My point is that is a timeline of what's happening all over. They're making enemies. Listen to this. I told you a little bit about this, and you guys, I think most of you believed me, and that means a lot to me. And a lot of you trusted me on the finger, right? Where you kind of say, "Hey, give me $100," and you're like, "On the finger? Give me something more than that." But here you go. You had to wait 24 hours, but this is for you.
Back to DOGE just for a second. Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marjorie Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some of this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOGE is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us, unfortunately. I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? So that's the thing. Those are the things that DOGE is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that
So you're talking $2.7 trillion in wasteful spending. Folks, we haven't even got to the Defense Department. I'm going to show you. I know, because the Defense Department is 10 times that.
Well,
10
when you take
times that.
The government took in tax revenue in 2023, $4.5 trillion, and then spent $6.1 trillion. So for them to say that they've identified $2.7 trillion of misallocated funds means that of the 6.1 that they spent, that really what you're talking about is 3.6 trillion of that was legitimate, right? Well, that's under what they took in terms of government tax revenue.
Well, we did these numbers last night. I know, I showed them last night. I know.
I didn't.
It's no. Do it again, and then let's do it again tomorrow. Because the difference is, guys, is that they expose this stuff on page 37 on a Friday. This is now in mainstream media. This is juicy shit. This means heads are going to roll. This is going to sell papers. It's going to get subscriptions. The news will cover this because it's sexy. I'm telling you, this is the Me Too movement, and it's building steam. Listen to this. Brian, you're still with us. Keep listening.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars.
Why is this so low? Okay, I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I don't know why it's so low. It comes down to this. Did Joe Biden... Okay, I got to explain something to people because this is frustrating me. Joe Biden set aside $20 billion for future heads of departments. 8 shell departments were created. These departments don't exist. And set aside $20 billion outside of the Treasury. Joe, thank you so much, man. We need every dollar. Big balls, hairy balls.
Hairy balls.
Go ahead.
Huge brass balls, i.e. Trump. Good
so
comment.
this money was set aside. So what I want you to understand, and what's frustrating the shit out of me about this, are people like, oh, it's no big deal. You got to stop the PACs. You got to We haven't run these areas of government. Do you guys understand that? We haven't had a true outsider in the FBI. We haven't had a true outsider attorney general. We haven't had a true outsider secretary of treasury. We haven't had a true outsider. He's going to nationalize the Fed. Do you understand this? Donald Trump is literally every single major position that has been resistance to this is now under Trump's control. And they are all outsiders and they are all MAGA through and through. We have the Pentagon. We have the FBI. We have the CIA. We have the NS-fucking-A. We've got the majority in Congress, in Senate. We have the majority in the SCOTUS. We have the majority in the federal courts, the circuit courts, the district courts, the gubernatorial. Folks, if we don't do it, then Donald Trump's the biggest fraud ever. And if any of you say his name in a positive way after this, but right now, he owns it all. He has the hammer, he has the pen, and he has the sword. Hold on a second, Leroy. Let me show this off, and then you and Brian chime in. This is DOGE. DOGE. I'm seeing if I can get in a little. I just want to show you this. I just canceled a $50 million Biden-era environmental justice grant to the Climate Justice Alliance, which believes climate justice travels through a free Palestine. They were funding terrorist groups. Instead of improving outcomes for students, here's where taxpayer dollars are going. $4.6 million contract to coordinate Zoom and in-person meetings. $3 million contract to write a report that showed prior reports. EPA also canceled 3 DEI contracts, saving America taxpayers $45 million. 58 cancellations with savings of $150 million in categories including media, DEI, and consulting for Department of Homeland Security. $25,000 award entitled for empowering LGBTQIA plus refugees in Greece. Folks, there are pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of shit that they are exposing. Eventually, a catalyst will take place. One of these large political action committees, whether it be Planned Parenthood or Big Tobacco or Northrop Grumman, whatever, is going to get the word that something is going to be exposed, and trust me, that is when the shitstorm will start. It's okay
now,
to be
is that
skeptical.
all part of? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Is that
it's
all
okay.
part of what Trump yesterday? He said that he was going to release names or entities that were basically exploiting or that were fraudulent or abusive of the
Yes.
spending of taxpayer money.
Yes, and then you got to find out where the data went on some of these expenditures, because you have, when you get to the DOD, you're going to see just blank lines of data and information where dollars were spent and reappropriated to different things like the USAID, where the Pentagon has a whole, they've been funding operations for other forms of government programs and just reallocating money for the CIA. When this is exposed, listen, Leroy will tell you, man, that we buy duffel bags full of cash, millions of dollars on the black market to buy weaponry. We were doing this. When they expose this shit, you guys have no idea how much fucking money is wasted. You just don't understand how big this is. This is trillions. These are boatloads full of cash. Leroy, go ahead.
I want everyone who's watching, we have 300 people on. Thank you so much. Lois. Love the content. Keep it up. Thank you, Lois.
Yes, ma'am. We will.
I want everyone who's watching this to remember something. Okay. As DOGE continues to chip away at this and put up an ever increasing number, at the end, let's say in 2 years' time, 2 years from now, we're going to be looking at a number from DOGE where they have saved us. Let's just call it, they've already identified that some of this has been misallocated, right? Let's say, for example, that DOGE is able to knock off $5 trillion off of the debt. $5 trillion. A pretty realistic number, right? Considering where we're at. Matt discussed it earlier. We're at $38 trillion, right? Let's say we get it to under 30 trillion. Okay. That is an average savings to every person who pays taxes of more than $25,000. So Donald Trump, by being very scrupulous, examining where the hell all of this money is going, this fraud, waste, and abuse that had gone unreported, by examining this and saying, hey, we can scale back the size of the U.S. government, something that he ran on. If he is able to knock off $5 trillion, that is a $25,000 savings to every taxpayer. Now, I say that to say this. What happens in 2 years? Midterms? Can you think of a greater victory, political victory, in 2 years' time than to come out and say, hey, look, I just saved you 25,000 real dollars that you were going to have to pay in one form or another. How are we doing so far? That is the ultimate pulse check for America to say, do we really want to give up control of the House or the Senate?
Let me chime in here real quick. I want people to understand something. It's not Social Security. It's not Medicare. It's not the DOD that needs to be eradicated. I love you. Good night, buddy. It's Leroy says hi. It's not that, guys. It's the waste. I showed you last night where I went over USAID, where 63% of its funds from 2024, 2023, 2022 were misappropriated. 63%. What could we do with 60? Thank you, Amy Bordeaux. You're a sweetie. We love you. You're the best. Listen when I say this. Okay, let's take the VA administration. VA got a budget request. They were running on an annual budget of about 72 billion with a B. They got a COVID relief package, which knocked them up to 126. Republicans voted against it in May of, I want to say 2023, and people were like, they're trying to steal VA benefits. No, the fucking Republicans said, why have you tripled your budget since COVID? And the overall numbers in the military have been down by 25%. And the number of veterans are going to be down by almost 3%. Why are we increasing your budget? They wanted a $256 billion annual increase. Thank you so much, Bobby Richardson. 103.48. I want to see Matt freak. Love you, Matt. And Larry. There, I freaked 103.48. I'll go naked for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, we love you. Now,
Bobby is amazing.
So there's one example. One example where the VA is losing because you've lost Vietnam, you've lost Korean, you've lost first Iraq war is really up until Afghanistan, OIF, OEF are now the big meat. But that is a smaller generation than Vietnam and Korea. They're going to lose anywhere from 3.5% to 4% of overall military people over the next 25 years. Why are we spending that money? So the problem is you hear VA and you go, you can't cut money from the VA. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You have to ask, where is it going and what is it going for? So how about this? How about the IRS? Okay, how about the NEA? How about USAID? How about the complete waste and fraud, hiring 89,000 people to run on archaic systems when computers can advance these problems? The problem with the U.S. government, and let me explain it to you in the simplest terms of why this is happening and why it is expanding. Here it is. It's like the people who work on your roads. They take as long as possible because if they don't spend their budget, they don't get the same fucking contract next time.
Next year. Yep.
So what these institutions have done is they constantly kick the can down the road and spend the money that they don't need to spend so they can justify a bloated motherfucking budget. And now we are $37 trillion in debt because it's literally keeping up with the Joneses. There are only 3 major areas that require most of our budget, which is the Department of Defense, Medicare, and Medicaid, Social Security. Those are the 3 largest. And they have some of the highest levels of fraud. So go in and clean up the 63% of the fraud and imagine what our country can do. We will have
do you wanna-
fiber optics running up our ass out of our fucking toilet seats. We will plug our buttholes into fiber optics if we want to. Whatever we want, we can have. You want to
Thank
go to
you,
Mars? You want to
Ashley.
solve cancer? We can. I'll get to that in a second. We can. Ashley, sorry. Go ahead, Leroy. Call it out.
Ashley Gleason, thank you so much for your donation of $100. Always appreciate the way you
break things down. Don't ever stop. I think that's what you said, Ashley. We love you. Sorry, I was on a roll, folks.
No, and you're good.
It's not. It's real quick. It's not about cutting and stopping all of these programs. It's putting a hiatus on this spending, going through it with a fine-tooth comb. We have literally been a piggy bank with no security. And what Donald Trump is doing is saying, we're going to put some security around this. We're going to have checks and balances on our spending, and people are going to stop getting rich. The last thing I'm going to say, then I'm giving it to Leroy, and I'm shutting the fuck up. Do you know the one place on earth that is recession-proof? The one place on earth that has not seen housing pricing drops, did not see an impact from COVID, has not necessarily seen job loss. Can anyone name the place?
DC?
Washington fucking DC. Because whenever they put themselves in a pickle, they print more money. And that is why where I live, we didn't even feel the effects of COVID. My house price went up 50%. In $630,000, it was worth $1.2 million at spring peak. We are recession proof, and that should tell you why, because all they do is shovel more fucking money out around the area and they enrich themselves. This is why Washington D.C. is recession proof, because they print the fucking money. Leroy, go ahead, and then Brian, and then we're wrapping.
I have got the most amazing story, and this is the type of shit that should set everyone on fire. Back in 2020, I was mobilized. I was around the Horn of Africa, the special operations group that I was mobilized with. I am not a special operator. I am not a SEAL, just to make that clear. But they get infused with just billions of dollars. One of the items one of the pieces of equipment, I will say it that way, that they operate, and they have, like, let's just say 2 or 3 of them. They were contracted to get a fourth of something. I'm not going to tell you what. And it cost X number of dollars. The contract on that. And so I get mobilized. I am gone. I'm away from the base for a period of time. I find out while I'm in the field that this piece of equipment, that the contractor who was originally slated to do all of this work, that contract had fallen through. So what happens to the money? We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. What should happen to that money versus what did happen? In the time I was gone, the contract falls through. I go back to the compound. Not joking. The area where I was staying, okay, all of a sudden had been fully furnished with leather furniture, with big screen TVs, and with every accoutrement you can imagine from IKEA. So in the time that they were able to secure said contract, they lose the contract, and somebody farther up the food chain that I'm allowed to live in, right, says, well, we have to now spend this money. Otherwise, we're not going to get it again. If we don't spend it now, then we're not going to get it in the future. So what do we do with that? Oh, I don't know. Let's go out and buy all sorts of leather furniture and big screen TVs for our guys who are mobilized. That's the kind of thing that should infuriate you. And that's what DOGE is finding. It's this level of abuse.
Do you guys want to know how much petty cash an aircraft carrier has on it?
It's like $50,000, isn't it?
Command, not
sure.
shops. I'm going to share a report with you tomorrow that'll go through this. But at any given time, any aircraft carrier, I'm not going to say it until I share the report with you. It'll fucking blow you away how much operating cash one carrier has in a situation where they need cash to acquire something, whether it be food or fuel or any type of negotiating power, if they are in a situation where they are cut off from U.S. Naval Command. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. How much 5,000 people, how much food, how much fuel you may need. Now, I understand fuel being for aviation fuel. But I want you to think about that. You're in England. You're cut off from command. You need a resupply. You throw it on a credit card. You have cash on hand. What does that look like? Now I want you to think about every single government entity. Where does that money get distributed from? Is it cash? No. There are NGOs and there are third-party companies like Halliburton and defense contractors and food suppliers, Noble, Cisco, Kraft. Do you know how much money the United States government gives Kraft? Go look it up. Go look up Noble, Cisco. All the sugar packets in every single fucking mess hall, in every branch, is all the same sugar. At one point, it was Shamrock. Then it was Kraft. Then it became Noble Cisco. These are massive contracts where all the food comes in from one place. The problem with the U.S. purchasing system is that there is a middleman in every single one of these transactions. Yep. Every single one of these transactions. So when we say that corruption is not just in Washington, D.C., it's in the field. I knew operators that carried duffel bags full of cash in the millions. Leroy can attest to what I'm saying. Buying black weapons off the market in places like Mogadishu, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and we can go on and on and on. Removing militant groups that were going to be resistant to whatever government we wanted in control, buying this type of shit to keep it off the black market. The United States government has so much fuck you money. And the reason why is because it is just unfettered access to the piggy bank and nobody is watching because they're all taking a handful. And the people who are supposed to be watching, those are the people who are also budgeted in the same appropriations bills. So how can you systematically work through corruption when the people who are corrupt are the ones funding your organization that's supposed to keep them on the straight and narrow? How? Because it's like this. Hey, Paul, you better get your fucking head out of my shit, or I promise you, I'm going to cut your funding by 30%, and your wife and kids are going to have to be on the fucking food lines. This is a very crazy game, and I'm telling you guys, it is corrupt on every single level. Brian, take us home, man. Give us some information. You got a couple minutes, then we're going to get the hell out of here.
Right. Well, I agree with you. And you know what? Pete had said he had explained earlier this week that the Marine Corps was the only branch of the government that has passed audit in the last 2 years.
Yep, it's true.
And 100. You know what the reason? You know what the reason for that is?
Honor.
No, it's not. It's not honor. It's the basic. Well, in my opinion, basically the reason why the Marine Corps has passed audit is because in the Marine Corps, especially when you're in maintenance or those types of jobs, billet outweighs rank. So you don't have. So like I was a corporal, but because of my billet, because I was a CDI, I ran crews where I was overseeing sergeants and staff sergeants. I was telling them what they needed to do to complete our job. That is the whole reason, in my opinion, why the Marine Corps was able to pass audits, because it doesn't go down to who's the biggest, dick slinger in the fucking ranks or whatever. It goes down to who has the most knowledge and is the most capability to lead. That was the whole reason why, in my opinion, that Marines have
Do you
been
think
able
Marines
to pass
were
their
going to,
audits.
Brian, do you really believe that the Marines would disgrace the Corps? I've worked with Marines as much as I've worked with anybody in the Navy. It seemed like I was swinging dicks with Marine Corps more than I was swinging dicks with team guys. And I'll tell you, the honor that they have for the uniform, the pride that they have for the uniform, of not dishonor. Now, I know there's shitbags in the Corps. You and I both know this, but
Right.
there is a certain level of accountability that they have. There are smart guys in the Navy. There's smart guys in the Army. They don't have the discipline, the regimentation, the camaraderie, and the honor and core system that the Marine Corps has. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that has a huge part to play with it, but I could be wrong. Brian, do me a favor. I want you to call back sometime. I got to get Mel on. She's been waiting. I really appreciate you, dude, and thank you for your service and Semper Fi, man.
Oh no, thank you. I love your show, Matt. I think that what you guys do is awesome. I love Relay. I love yourself, and it's great. You know, the one thing I want to ask of you, Matt.
Yeah.
I'm about to order your constitutional book.
Yeah.
I want you to sign it and give me a dedication.
Oh, I got it for you. Yeah, for sure. Done. Yeah, you order it, I'll sign it. You got it. Don't let me forget. Put it in the notes. And if there aren't any notes, just remind my ass. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm
Brian, I won't forget.
Order it tomorrow
Yeah.
or in the next couple of days. But yeah, I'll remind you. But I just want a signature and or a dedication.
You got
that'd
it.
be cool.
You got it. It would be my pleasure, my honor to do so, Brian. I appreciate you, man. Semper Fi. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Mel, if you're going to call in. Leroy, if you got to go. It's okay to wave off. Mel was just going to call in for a couple minutes, and then we're
while we're waiting for Mel, there was something I wanted to also drive home. This idea behind government waste, fraud, and abuse. There was everyone has heard me talk about this before. My all-time heroes are people like Milton Friedman, Walter Williams. Well, Milton Friedman had this amazing graphic way back in the day. Do not leave the show to go look this up, but look it up after. And it was this 30-second guide to government spending. And what it kind of illustrates is that when you're buying shit for yourself, like you're always concerned with either its quality or the cost. But when you're using other people's money, then concern for quality and or cost goes right out the window. And that's what DOGE is focusing in on. All DOGE is doing is proving that Milton Friedman, who has now passed away 40 years ago, was one of the smartest people around.
Can I just say one more thing before Mel chimes in, because this is such a good point. Guys, you guys know my former life, profit loss statements. Shrink and swell. The worst thing that I can give you an example. Every dollar you lose in retail, it takes $10 to make up for it. That is why shrink is so incredibly important to control. And that comes from payroll, that comes from inventory, that comes from breakage. The United States government is the same thing. Every dollar lost and unaccounted for takes 10 times as much to regain that revenue from the American people. Because not only from a time perspective that taxes are annually, now they do quarterly taxes, and there's other tax forms that they get from businesses that are done monthly. But the majority of the revenue that the United States government collects is predominantly between the months of April and September. But losing that revenue and that buying power and having to reacquire it costs more than it made to collect the first time. This also is adding to the debt.
Yep.
50 trillion hits, and we are unable to pay the interest on our loan with what revenue we intake right now. We not only need to have a surplus, we need to buy up the debt from Saudi Arabia, Japan, who bought a shit ton of our debt up in the 90s and the 2000 earlys, and China. So you understand that this is our actual national debt, but it's higher than this. Because when it's actually the debt that's been bought off for us, we owe that too.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mel.
Just a question for Leroy and for you too, Matt. I'm just trying to wrap my head around your contracting and procurement system within your government, because here, when we do government contracts for all branches, whether it's Department of National Defense or the Coast Guard or whatever entity, it doesn't, like, in forestry, they all are federal departments. We all go under an umbrella of a buying consortium, like not a buying consortium, but an oversight, whatever, that we have to process our paperwork through.
It's called a contract vehicle.
For contracting.
Yep.
So for Leroy, like, I don't understand. Like, if a contract was in place for the situation that you were in, and then partway through, like, whatever, the contract was canceled, I'm not understanding, because within a contract there's always clauses for cancellation and reimbursement and, like, whatever. So I find that very concerning and very, because if your contracting consortium down there, like for DOD, at any time, like, they enter a contract and then all of a sudden, without informing the bodies that it's canceled, well, I find that very distressful, because I don't find that's not the contracting basis, how contracting works. Like, there's always penalties and whatever. Like,
sure.
It seemed very strange. So my overall question is there in the U.S. Government an overseeing contracting organization that does all the contracts from all branches of, like, DOD, Pentagon, like wherever, all go through a central contracting process, so that there's standardization and there's sort of, this is how this goes, and you have to go through all the hoops and whatever to have a contract, because a contract is a legally binding thing. Like, there's consequences to contracts, as you know. It doesn't matter if it's, you get a contract with Canadian Tire to get your, or whatever, Home Depot to get your whatever done, and they didn't do it, so you can go back and have retribution. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around the contracting process.
No. I understand the question, Mel.
Go ahead.
The long story made short is that I don't necessarily know.
I do.
I know for fact that where I currently work, there is government oversight. They use contract vehicles with oversight to manage this money, to manage these contracts, to make sure that everyone is holding up their end of the bargain. That if a contractor does in fact supply a service, that they get reimbursed for said service. Now, here's where I don't know. When someone is mobilized, because we're talking something that happened out of the country, we're talking about a forward mobilized unit that I don't know the level of oversight that is truly placed on them. I suspect that it's minimal, and that it is in some way, shape, or form justified by 4 stars at some point, or by Congress or Senate, with this idea of, because the group that I was working for, just by nature of their work, that it is all kind of tucked under the carpet and chalked up to, well, this is part of the black budget that we're just going to live with. Where I currently work, I don't think that they enjoy that that lack of oversight. Where I currently work, there's a lot of oversight, but my sneaking suspicion is the group, while I was mobilized in Africa, probably did not have as much oversight. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, Mel, let me answer the question. DCMA is in charge of all government contracts for the DOD. Okay. And the DCMA is the Defense Contract Management Agency. They oversee about $3.5 to $4 trillion in overall contracts, which accumulates to about 237,500 some odd contracts, I think is what it is annually. They are very similar to a shipping container when it comes to imports into our country. They touch maybe 1 out of 1,000 crates. They touch maybe 1 out of 1,000 contracts. These contracts, what you're talking about specifically, which I know from Department of Defense, but predominantly through my retail career, is when you're looking at like a failed contract. It's either unjust enrichment is one, so where the contract wasn't fulfilled, accord and satisfaction where there's a dispute on the contract, and then failure of consideration, which all fall into the write-off category. Would you like to know how much money was written off when it came to the DCMA's overall proposals?
I do.
Well, I would be very scared because
I'm going to answer it.
I would call that mismanagement.
Yeah, well, of course it's
DCMA.
mismanaged. Of course it's mismanagement. Over 32%, and what happens is over 32% of those contracts that were written off were reappropriated and overall rolled into the following year's budget increase. So what happens is when they are allowed a certain amount of write-offs, those write-offs are submitted, and then it rolls into the budget increase, which is, it's not consignment, it's deferment is what it's called. That's the way these contracts work.
Yeah. See, where I am doing with your version of DOD contracts, because I work for DND up here, and that's not how it rolls. When a contract is terminated, it doesn't roll to another whatever. And it has to be really, really extenuating circumstances the contract gets terminated. And especially if somebody is out like we do deploy, like we have contracts in all countries for all different kinds of deployments. Our guys go on, and the ships and blah, whatever, the Army guys, Air Force guys, these contracts are in place. And if the countries or the contractor in those countries don't, whatever, it doesn't, like, that does not, that doesn't happen. These cancellations, like what Leroy just exposed, I'm mortified. Like, that's going into whatever, and all of a sudden, like, your funding is gone. Like, to me, that is a real travesty on DOD part, not looking after their troops and making sure these contracts are hard and fast in place. And if they're not, they should be standing there on the ground with these people going, hey, fuckhead, this is like whatever, but not leaving these guys hanging dry. That does whatever. Because when the ships deploy, and I know on the aircraft carriers and all your boats, the same as ours, they've got a boatload of cash money in all currencies.
Huge.
And they pay, it's massive. It's
massive. Over a billion on hand.
Exactly. Like, people don't understand. Like,
nope,
we deal in cash. We have credit cards, but a lot of the countries that we all go to only deal in cash. So there's people with black suitcases, whatever, that walk, like, it sounds like the Obama plane, whatever, but it's true. You have to pay in cash, and that's how it rolls. And the ships are allotted, and the aircraft, like all the deaths that go to all these weird places, they have a boatload of physical cash that they get to pay with. So I'm really, like, that's why I was confused. Like,
okay, so Mel, I got to stop you. Mel, I got to stop you, honey. I love you to death. You are fucking amazing, and this is a whole nother show. I want to say this real quick, just to get this out here, and then we got it. Everyone's going to get their minute, and you too. And I want you to say whatever you want. And I'm sorry I got interrupted. It's just late. It's 10 o'clock. My family hasn't seen me all day. Here's the. Don't leave. What I'm going to say is the United States government and the Canadian government are two separate entities. Canada is not the world's police. Canada is not buying weapons off the black market. Canada is not reinstalling governments. What the United States does on the global scale with the amount of money that it has is a very different ballgame. And the level of corruption is because of the sheer volume. When I say 250,000 contracts annually, you and I both know how much paper that is. How many people are involved in those contracts? You're talking tens of millions of people involved in those contracts, and how many hundreds of thousands of accounts, how much money is being moved from left to right. Joe Biden just took $20 billion fucking dollars and put it into 8 different companies. The balls on this fucking guy.
Right.
I want you to imagine some low-level commander who's got $500,000 in cash, who's ready to go to fucking some Kurd and pick up all his RPGs and buy them off of him, isn't getting a receipt.
Nope.
The amount of money that the United States government, in a forward operating position beyond the wire, I can't even begin. The DOD is in so much fucking trouble because this goes against Senate oversight. This was established after Vietnam for specific cases like this because they were running secret shadow wars. So they put a Senate oversight and appropriations over indiscretionary spending for the CIA. That has been circumvented by investing money in different channels, USAID. We can go on and on and on. The CIA literally has an unbounded budget, and they are spending it. We're talking fucking $9.1 trillion missing from the DOD in the last 14 years. How? Where? Okay, that's my end. Leroy, go. Then Mel. Then we're out of here. It's 10 o'clock.
It's been a really, really great show. We have hashed over a lot of things. Obviously, the big one that we spoke about was DOGE. Everyone seems to love the idea that at some point, fiscal responsibility may be becoming more of a theme here for the next 4 years, which is fantastic. Matt and I have both posed this question on the show before. At what point do we consider our debt to be a national security issue?
Right.
Democrats certainly love to use the spending habits of the Republicans, and the Republicans love to do that. But the fact of the matter is, neither one of us are very good at it. This has been one of the very first administrations that has taken this much of an examinatory kind of look into our budgets to say, oh my God, you have wasted trillions of dollars and have saddled that cost onto the taxpayer, and that's a problem. And if just on that theme alone, I see the next 4 years to be a huge win. Beyond that, it was just so great to have everyone on. Thank you again for all of the donations. Mel, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You are just one of those iconic, repetitive guests that just always brings an awesome insight to the show.
Oh, I was going to say she's fucking boring. She's from Canada. But otherwise, hey, you guys had a good win against the old against the Swedes. Good for you guys. Canada did well in the Four Nations tournament. Good job.
Raw. Thanks, Leroy, for the vote of confidence.
Whatever. I
Matt,
love you. Shush.
Here's my big finger. But anyways, yeah.
Whatever. I love you. So tell me what's your minute? Give me your minute, kiddo.
My minute is after watching all of this in the last 3 weeks, there is something that really, and Elon is on it, the contracting issues, and because that's where the fraud happens. They're giving the contracts to their friends. There's no oversight. The contracting system is bad, and it is bad here where I live too, and they're trying to address that too. But contracting is huge, and
Try to get a construction gig. Try to get a construction gig in Washington, D.C. The old company I worked for, we remodeled the White House bathrooms, and they were under NDA and couldn't release any pictures marketing. But I can say it now because fuck that company. Do you understand? Do you understand that to get a contract to do construction for the VA, how many millions of dollars they pay? That is just like they'll go bid a job and they'll say, how much are you going to do to roof 4,000 squares and resurface. And we would go into this contractor and say, 10 million. And you would go and measure anything, 10 million. And we would be bidding with other companies. And the bid always, no matter what it was always the highest amount, but it was always somebody who was a fucking relation to a senator or a fucking general. And I saw contracts that were 4 times our bid, and we would lowball. We would come in with like 7 points of margin, and there were jobs that were making 56, 70% points in margin, and the government always went with the most expensive bid. This shit is so fucking corrupt out here, Mel. It is horrible.
Well, no. And when I saw a few years back that the U.S. Navy was paying $300 for toilet seats for ships, I'm like, seriously? They obviously didn't go to the Home Depot to get the $59 ones that we all, and that's what they got. They didn't get the $300 gold seats and I'm like, that's corruption. Like that is, and that was
corruption.
That was a few years ago. Like,
yeah, I know.
It made the news. Like, really?
Jesus, go investigate the F-35, Mel, and tell me you're not going to vomit all over yourself. Go investigate how much.
God. I am.
Yeah. We got to go. Mel, I love you. We got to go.
I love you.
My
guys.
wife.
Thank you.
You are one of my favorite people on the planet. You know that, and I love you. Goodbye.
Bye, Mel.
Cheers, bye.
All right. Leroy, thanks for staying late, dude. It was a long night. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much. But I got to get you out of here.
You know what? I am tired, but I'll tell you what. If there's ever a topic that will keep me on over with no questions asked, it's always fiscal responsibility.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'm gonna break down and explain to you how the DOD could lose trillions, and I'll break it down for you. And I'll tell you why. Redundancy is a lot of them, because that's the one thing we have a lot of in the military is multiple redundancies, and it's a waste of money. Folks, God bless you. Thanks for watching the Don't Inform Me Show. Thank you for making our goal yet again. Leroy, thanks for being such a good buddy. I can't wait to see you in March, and we'll see see you next Tuesday. Good night, everybody.
All right, everyone have a great night. Love you guys.
You too. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.